some of the letters we know they're possibly authentic, but also has things that are inauthentic. And they're just going to say, we're just going to consider this to be one of the inauthentic letters.
Yeah. Yep. Basically.
So this is like a last resort. Use this like as a last resort if you try to use it at all.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I don't bring it up a ton. I'll bring it up a little bit, but there's some. I mean, but nevertheless, it's still something that somebody wrote in the fourth, early fifth century at latest. Like, why were they saying this? Like, why did they make a connection between the Christians and everything like that? It seems strange. I'm gonna do a restart over on TikTok as well, really fast. Yeah. So I will see all you lovely people in just a moment. All right, over there on YouTube. I think we're still going over there on YouTube. But welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in, everybody who is over there on YouTube. We are doing a restart on TikTok. Try to see if we can get some guests to come up and talk about Jesus and Paul never existing. Or if you have any evidence for it, please present it. I'd like to hear it. I would like to hear it. Oh my God. I'll hope note with a huge number there. All right. Yeah. With the Arby's stuff.
Arby's, we have the meats.
Hell yeah, we do.
I said, bitch.
That's why they call him Black Salami.
I know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it.
All right. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Let's see. Skeptic Frog said, nice. Will make me feel like I wasn't late. Oh, yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Well, welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. If you've got any evidence for Jesus or Paul, I want to hear from you. We're going to be going for another couple hours here, another couple hours, and then that'll be about it. But yeah, hopefully, if you've got some evidence, you can come up and present it here within the next couple hours. If you're on YouTube, welcome in. Click the link in the chat and come on up. We've got Ash who says first. Hey, yeah, that was actually first. And then Elope Nut says 56,756. Yeah, I wish. Or do I wish? That'd be awful having that many people in here. Okay. Magic says second. What does that say? Does that say magic? I don't know how to say that next word. It's all. What does that say? Oh, it's Magic Fairy. Okay. I was like, what does that say? All right. I was like, I can't read that. It looks like some kind of squiggle. Yeah, fairy. Okay, yeah. All right. Let's say, ain't got no gas in it is a vocal stem for me, so thanks for that.
I know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it.
There we go. All right, I'm done. No, I'm not.
I know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it.
Okay, there you go. Let's see. Gaz says, the place I am. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that means. All right, scrolling through here. Are you the Elope Note? Yeah. Elope Note. Yeah, there it is. I'm not going to say that there, resting op face. But yeah, if you're on YouTube, request up. I'd like to hear from you. We also have links or the request button here on TikTok. So go ahead and hit that request button. Smash that motherfucking request button. I would like to hear your evidence for Jesus or Paul. We'll talk about the New Testament. I'll even, if you wanted to, a little bit, I'll talk about the historicity there for the Old Testament or the Quran, that kind of thing. That's fine too. Patrick Kane going back to the Hawks. Who? No. Where do you differentiate from carry? Oh, carrier. Over the dating of the text, and I guess the historicity of Paul as well. That would be the main differences there. Jake says Carrier's methodology is trash. Also, he's an essayer. Well, allegedly. You gotta throw in that allegedly. Well, I mean, you don't have to. You can do whatever you want, I guess. I don't know. You defer in the alleged assault. I don't know if it was assault. I think it was alleged harassment is, I think, more what specifically the term that they use. Well, for the purpose of saying something that is, and get me in trouble, I'm going to say alleged. I personally. Now, is that what I personally believe? What's going on, Jacob?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It just let me join in. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, not a problem. What you got?
Yeah, so you believe that Jesus as a historical person just simply is not a person at all, who ever existed in time?
Wait, okay. Rephrase the question.
Your stance is that Jesus was never a historical person in time.
That is correct.
Okay, so I would obviously disagree. That's why I'm here. But I'm curious. Obviously, I'm guessing you wouldn't take the Bible as being true because it states that Jesus is a real person.
Well,
But
I mean, just saying that in general, sure, I wouldn't take that as true. But if you could establish that it's historically reliable, then we could talk about it.
Right. What about sources that are outside of the Bible that talk about Jesus during the time?
During the time? What do you mean during the time?
Right. So outside of the Bible, there's about 12, 13 different sources that we have from people who are Christians and actually non-Christians who confirm that there was a historical person named Jesus who was crucified.
Sure. But you said the phrase at the time. Did you mean, what did you mean by that?
At the time, as in sources that were written around 100 AD, around the time of Christ, and where eyewitnesses would still be allowed.
100 AD? So 70 years after he dies?
Yes.
You think it's around the time?
Yeah, that's when they were written. 70 years after.
Okay, so when you said that they were written around Jesus, you meant 70 years later?
Do you think that that's not very close?
I mean, it's not contemporary or anything like that, but we have contemporaries for other people. I mean, I'm just wondering because I mean, you said around the time, and I'm just kind of surprised that you said 70 years later would be around the time of that person.
Right. So take another historical figure. You're saying that 70 years is extremely far off.
I haven't said extremely far off. It's just I wouldn't say that's not around the time.
Even though it's written in the lives of people who are still eyewitnesses.
Okay, so you're saying that it's written by contemporaries? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that it's written by people who... So one of them is Josephus. Have you heard of Josephus?
No.
So Josephus is a Jewish historian at the time who has written...
Is he a contemporary of Jesus?
No.
Okay. Does he cite his sources?
Josephus?
Yeah. Does he say, I heard this from this person who was an eyewitness?
Yes.
Oh, he does.
Did he talk... Are you asking, did he
Jesus?
specifically talk to an eyewitness? Is that what you're asking?
Does he cite his source? That's all I'm asking. Does he say, I got this from somebody who was an eyewitness of Jesus?
Actually, yes. In his writings, he talks...
Who is the eyewitness that he cites?
I'm forgetting his name right now, but he is the son of the man who was there when Jesus got his penalty to actually be crucified. So he would have actually been there when they were giving his punishment. Sorry?
How do you know this?
Here, I can pull it up right now.
So you're saying that he got this information from his dad, is what you said? He says this?
So yeah, he would have been talking to the son, and I
would have been
or was?
For my ignorance. Does it say that he did?
Who, Josephus?
Yeah, does Josephus say that he talked to his dad and got this information from his dad?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh, he does. He said, yes. I heard about Jesus from my dad, is what it says.
No, that he was there when Jesus was given...
Oh, it says my dad was there.
No. The person that he talked to, who would have been the son of the man who gave the verdict to Jesus, that son would have been there. Does that make sense?
No, you're gonna have to use names or something like that because I'm not really
Okay.
sure what you're talking about.
Well, I apologize for my ignorance. I can definitely look those things up and get specific names.
So what you're saying is Josephus talked to who now?
So he would have talked to the son whose father would have been a part of giving the verdict or punishment to Jesus being crucified. And
The
not only that,
verdict. You mean like Pilate?
no, it's not Pilate. I'm forgetting the name. He's a second. I'm sorry for my ignorance. I truly.
So Josephus said he got the information for Jesus from the son of someone who isn't named in the Bible?
No, I actually do think he is named in the Bible.
Oh, he is. Who's the person who's named in the Bible?
Again, I apologize for my ignorance. I don't have this off the top of my head.
Not a problem. Look it up.
I don't know if you want me to like go so then you can let someone else
No,
up and I
man,
can join
go
back.
ahead. We're waiting for the information.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure it's your live. I didn't want to be disrespectful.
Not a problem. And again, just to reiterate or just to remind everybody, what Jacob is looking for here is Jacob claimed that Josephus was getting the information for Jesus from the son of someone who was actually there during the trial of Jesus. Seems like a lot of searching to try to find something that should be pretty readily available.
I'm not sure if this is exactly who it is because I'm drawing a blank. But this is what I looked up. Ananus ben Ananus, he would have been the high priest during the time.
Ananus ben Ananus is high priest in the early 60s.
Yeah.
So no.
During Jesus's time. Ananus
no,
ben
Jesus
Ananus.
dies prior to 36 because that's when Pilate was removed. The high priest during that time was Caiaphas.
Yeah, that's why I said after.
You said Ananus ben Ananus.
Right, after. I'm not saying he talked to Caiaphas.
You said he talked to the son of who?
I thought it was the person that gave the verdict. I'm going to have to look up again what Josephus said.
Well, the person who gave the verdict is Pilate.
Right, but the person would have been there. I'm not saying he gave the verdict that Josephus talked to.
Okay, well, who is he?
Again, I just said
Did you say
I'm
he was
ignorant, and I'm
named
going to
in the
have
New
to
Testament?
look
Is that
it
what you
up
said?
as well.
Was he named in the gospel?
I believe so, but again, like I just said, I'm going to have to look this up. I have no problem saying that and being humble and saying that I don't know it off the top of my head.
Now, all of this really comes down to, I guess you're talking about that paragraph in Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, Book 18, Chapter 3, Section 3, known as the Testimonium Flavianum, which was supposedly written in the mid-90s, specifically that talks about Jesus and Pilate and the crucifixion and miracles and disciples and resurrection, and says that the tribe of Christians are not extinct to this very day. Also says that Jesus was the Christ, and says that he was potentially more than a man, and that he rose on the third day and appeared to his disciples as the divine prophets foretold this and 10,000 other wonderful things concerning him. You believe that that is citing a source of a child of someone who was there?
Well, then I guess I might be ignorant. I'm curious. Where did you get that again? Can you say that book again?
That's Antiquities of the Jews, Book 18, Chapter 3, Section 3. Or, if your particular copy of Antiquities of the Jews does not have chapters, that is going to be Book 18, Section 63.
Book 18, Section 63.
You're probably going to get a lot more hits if you put 18.3.3.
18.3.3.
Yep.
All right, give me a second. Antiquity of Jews. 18.3.3. Okay, so you're saying what about this text then?
This does not cite anybody.
What are you saying? Like it's you're saying that
I'm saying that
Josephus
your
isn't
claim
citing.
that I'm saying that your claim that Josephus was citing anybody or getting his information from the son of somebody who was there is not true and not substantiated whatsoever. He never says anything about how he's getting this information. He's stating it as just a matter of a fact. Also, this particular section, known as the Testimony and Flavianum, is not found in the table of contents before Book 18, which is very telling, which shows that he's very clearly not talking about this, and he probably didn't write that. And by probably, we know that he didn't, because Eusebius, an admitted liar and church historian commissioned by Constantine in the early 4th century, writing a little over 200 years after the death of Josephus, is the person who writes that paragraph. It is added into Josephus later on. By the way, when I said that I had never heard of Josephus, I was lying. Over the last 3 weeks, I have talked to 45 people. You are actually number 46.
Nice.
For Josephus. Josephus did not say anything about Jesus. We can show this. We can give very clear evidence that he did not talk about Jesus whatsoever. Nah, you're not gonna get anywhere there.
So then I'm curious then, if you're taking out Josephus, then who else have you came across then who talks about Christ that you would say that isn't true? Because there's more than just Josephus that people make claims that he talks about that.
Who else you got?
Oh, you're asking me. Okay. Okay, all right. There's Tacitus.
Tacitus over here on this other side. I'll go ahead and put a tally mark there for that. We are now up to 39 times that Tacitus has been brought up over the last 3 weeks or so. Tacitus is interpolated into as well. We just don't know who it is, and it's definitely sometime after the 3rd century, because the first Christian to write in Latin, known as Tertullian, he actually alludes to Tacitus's writing. He says, "Consult your history books. We were blamed for the fire in Rome, and tortures were carried out against us." But he never mentions anything about how Tacitus says anything about Jesus, because that line is not actually authentic to the text. The first time that we get that mention is in the early 5th century.
Where do you get that it's not authentic?
Yeah, so the line itself doesn't make any sense within the context of the actual writing, seeing as, and I'll go ahead and pull up an image here for you. This image that I'm going to show on your screen in just a moment. Come on now. You know you got everybody looking. All right, there you go. Okay, so the image that I'm about to pull up, here we go. This is a copy of the oldest manuscript of Tacitus's Annals, originally written in 116. The oldest manuscript that we have dates to the 11th century. This is the line right here that talks about Jesus and stuff like that, or at least alludes to this Jesus character. You'll notice that the term right here, we're going to go ahead and start with this word. This word right here is Christus. In no way, shape, or form does it say the word Jesus. It just says Christus, or in other words, Christ, the Latin version of the word Christ. So Christ, is that a title or a name?
That's a title.
Correct.
But okay. Who is it applied to during this time?
Literally anybody who's potentially anointed. In the Septuagint, which is the Greek version of the Old Testament, 30 times it's talking about high priest, and Cyrus the Great in the Old Testament is also referred to as a Christ in the Greek. Also, the Jewish Apocrypha, First Maccabees, literally starts off by saying Alexander the Great, the Christ.
Right. What does it say after when it says Christus, though?
Let's see here. You're talking about just on the...
on the same document.
Tiberius.
Right. Before that. I'm sorry.
Before that.
Before Christus.
Like, et.
Yep, and then keep going, because from what I'm getting
keep going
like just the sentence back. Christus. But this is what I'm saying. From what I'm seeing, the image is actually showing that, like, you have the Christus, but right before it says that people were called Christians by the
Oh,
populace.
you want to go ahead and jump there? That's not a problem. So you see this word right here? This is the word that gets translated as Christians. See this little
Okay.
gap here?
Yes.
Yeah, that's because this word wasn't Christians initially. You see how this has a little looks like a Y?
Yeah.
That's how you write the letter I right after an R in Latin. That's why it's over here in Tiberius. It looks like a Y.
Yep.
Here in Christus is not. It looks like a Y as well. This doesn't look like that. Here's the E. It's to the E. This is because this used to be an E, not an I.
So
In
so
fact,
then
over here in the
okay, go ahead.
margins, you actually have the word Christians in a later form that's actually written in, which shows that very clearly in the text it didn't say that initially. It said Christians. That's problematic because why would the Christians with an E get their name from Christus with an I?
So then what are you saying that meant then, since there's a space
What I'm saying
between them?
is that this initial word was Christians, and that's who he was talking about. And then the line about Christ being where they get their name and everything like that was obviously added by a Christian who knows Jesus as Christ and just threw that into the text.
Wait, so then if it's you're saying Christians with an A, is that
With an
correct?
E.
With an
This
E.
used to be an E here. Yep.
So then who what is that then?
It's the same group. That's the thing. It's just the fact that he wouldn't be referring to Christians getting their information from Christ or getting their name from Christ. That is an added line later on. I'd also like to point out that the word Christians appears in an inscription over in Rome that dates between 16 BC and 37 AD.
So then you're saying that it's the same group as
Mhm.
Christians,
Mhm.
but it's just
Yeah, they just
Christian.
don't. Yeah, it's just that we can see their history going back even further.
Okay, so then when it says that the Christians are getting their name from
Mhm.
Christ,
Yeah,
which
that's the interpolated line. That's the part that's added later by a Christian.
can you show me that?
Yeah, because it says Christ with an I. He wouldn't say the Christians with an E get their name from Christ with an I. At best, he would say Christus with an E.
No, I'm saying can you show me that it was added later, the Christians?
The Christians aren't added later.
So
It's edited, but this is part of the original.
so the Christians weren't added later, but you
Mm-mm.
just said that meant the same group as Christians?
Yeah, because
Did-
the mystery cult itself, known as Christianity, was around, and we can see elements of it going all the way back into the 1st century BC. But they don't have the Jesus story until later on, and so later on, someone adds Jesus back into Tacitus. They go back and they say, "Oh, hey, let's go ahead and add Jesus into this to make it sound like to like explain questions. Let's go ahead and say that this is something that is brought to us by Jesus." And then they've got to go on later on and actually update the word Christians to Christians
Okay, so
because
then you're
it's
saying
just a later term. Christians is the term that people end up using by like the 3rd to 4th century or so is the preferred term, even though the oldest manuscripts for the New Testament actually say Christians with an E.
okay, so then let me make sure that I'm just getting you straight. Are you
Mhm.
saying that the Christians was it was there like that,
Mhm.
that's what was written,
Yeah,
but you're
that's what
saying
was
that
written by Tacitus. Yeah.
right, so but and then you're saying that Christus
that
was
line that
added
has
in.
that line that starts talking about like where they get their name and says it's from Christ, that line is added. We can tell that because Christ was a title, not a name, and would not have been anything on an arrest record. That doesn't make any sense. Did Pilate put Christ above his head on the cross even in the Gospels?
No.
No.
So then
So it's
can
pretty
you
obvious that he wouldn't have put that. If anything, if Tacitus was looking at any kind of Roman record, he would have said Jesus, who might be called the Christ or something, or called Crest or Crestus. He would have said his name, his actual name, like Yeshua or his Greek or Latin variant. It's also pretty obvious that Tacitus isn't getting this from any kind of record because it calls Pilate, whose name begins here. This is Pon. And then right over here, you have Chus Pilati right there. So right
Yep.
here, this word here is procurator. Pontius Pilate was not a procurator. He was a prefect. Judea didn't have a procurator until the decade after Pilate was dismissed.
Okay, so you're saying that the Christus was added in later, and what
That
time was
line
that?
about Christ, yeah, was added later by a Christian who would
When
know
when?
Jesus as Christ. It would have to be added sometime after the beginning of the 3rd century, like I said, and before the beginning of the 5th, because in the beginning of the 5th is the first time that we get it mentioned. But there at the beginning of the 3rd century, or the end of the 2nd, we have Tertullian who is talking about this section from Tacitus, but never mentions that line. So sometime after Tertullian, but before the first Christian to mention it in the early 5th, is when it shows up, which makes
Right.
sense because that would also include all the 4th century, which is when Eusebius comes up with his line there for Josephus. So it's pretty clear
Right.
that in that point in time, they were attempting to write a history for the church. And so they were coming up with a whole bunch of stuff and claiming that different historians had talked about them when they actually hadn't.
Okay.
They were
So,
actively involved with like changing history, if you will, or revising history.
right. So then, do you have a source that it was added in by them?
Not only just this line right here where we can very clearly tell, but as a data scientist myself, we can take a look at the text for Tacitus, and we can actually analyze it. So let me see here. So what I'm about to show you here, this is called a dendrogram, and when we take a look at it, it looks like a family tree. And so it's taking a look at different styles of different text to analyze who the author is and say that this is similar to this. And the further you have to go up the tree in order to get to another file, the less likely it is to be from that same author. All similarly sized lines from Tacitus appear under this particular branch. Unfortunately, the line that talks about Jesus, way up here. So that shows us that it's actually closer to Tertullian, who was writing in Latin in the end of the 2nd, early 3rd, than it is to everything else in Tacitus. All of Tacitus comes up here except for that line that we call Tacitus J. It's up here. So in other words, no. Tacitus definitely did not write this. We can tell from data science. There's multiple scholars who talk about this, as well as Tertullian doesn't say anything about it whenever he's alluding to it in the end of the 2nd century, early 3rd. We don't get the first mention of it until the beginning of the 5th, and it includes multiple errors that Tacitus would not have made. He knows the difference between a procurator and a prefect. He actually uses them elsewhere correctly, but in this particular case, he calls Pilate a procurator when he wasn't, and Judea didn't have a procurator until later. Also, Christ is not a name. Christ would not be where the Crescens get their name, and Crescens appears in an inscription in Rome dating back as early as 16 BC. So no.
Right. So then, where then would you say that the Christians do get their name then?
So the Christians get their name from a Christ or crest deity. That is the title that you would give deities. There are multiple deities that are known as either Christus or Crestus. Is the title that was given. Christ means anointed. Crestus means the good one.
Right. So who else is known as that then?
We have Isis. We have Serapis. Let's see.
During this time, you're saying?
Yeah. During this time, Isis, Serapis, they were both worshipped in Alexandria. As well as Sinope, where the first gospel comes from, by the way. We also have, different people that are also known as Christ. Like I said, shortly before this, you have First Maccabees that was written that calls, in Greek, Alexander the Great was a Christ.
Okay, interesting. So then, what would be your explanation on why? I mean, when anybody looks up, okay, like what is the consensus on if Jesus was an actual man or not? And and it says, pretty much the consensus is that he was someone that lived at some time. What is your explanation on that?
What's my explanation as to why things say something different online?
Right, I'm guessing. I'm just saying, what's your consensus on why it says this? But what would be your explanation of why people do think that Jesus was a historical person? Like, why do you think it would have lasted 2,000 years? I'm curious your explanation on that.
Like, why is it that the consensus is something different? Is that you're just asking me?
I'm asking, what is your explanation for why Jesus is such a huge name, and that when you look, just like simply, I don't know, Google something.
Because of the Roman world becoming Christian, and it becomes the official religion of the Roman Empire in 380.
So you're saying that that just happened by
What do you
a
mean that
man that never
happened?
existed?
What was the religion prior to Christianity in Rome?
I mean, there were Jews there, and then a lot of
No.
it was
What was
also
the main
pagan
religion of
too.
Rome?
I don't know.
It was the imperial cult, like Jupiter, which is based off
Okay.
of Zeus.
Okay, so then,
So how did it become the official religion of Rome if Jupiter didn't exist?
well, because they believed it did.
Okay, well there's your fucking answer.
Well,
It
just wait
becomes
though.
it becomes Christian because they believed he did exist.
Well, I would say a man is different than Jupiter, a god who
Okay.
no one sees.
Hercules, they also believed Hercules existed.
Right. So
And
then,
he's a man.
so then you're simply saying that your
It's a
explanation
mythology.
for why all of a sudden Rome just got taken over by Christians.
You're saying that they believe in a man, and that means that he must have existed, when they very clearly believed in things that weren't even men, and they believed they existed too. So that means that these same people who were duped by a man or the concept of a god on top of a mountain throwing lightning bolts would
Well,
be a
no,
good source for whether or not a man existed.
I'm more saying, like, I understand your point
So
about like the
basically, like,
gods and
hey, the
like
village
Zeus
idiot
and like
believes
Jupiter.
that, so it must be real.
No, I'm saying it makes sense that that would be like, okay, that doesn't make any sense to believe in something that you can't see or understand.
Right.
But
So when they
when
decide to believe in someone else, you
someone
trust
that
them at that point?
someone that people claim to see and died for,
People died for
now,
Zeus.
s- so you're saying that
People died for
nobody could have
Zeus.
verified, nobody tried to verify at the time, hey, this Jesus guy you're
In
talking about that
380?
you're dying for,
In 380?
it's not real.
No one could have verified that on the top of Mount Olympus there was no Zeus, but yet they still worshipped him? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm asking you,
No,
how
I'm
come
trying to get
then?
you to realize that that line of questioning is very stupid. In 380, there was no one alive who was even remotely close to the first century, so there was no way to actually verify this too terribly well. And on top of that, the actual place that Jesus would have been active, like Jerusalem and stuff like that, had been destroyed like multiple times and like sieged multiple times. So it doesn't. Okay, cool. Like, where's your evidence that it would have actually been there? At that point in 380, it was just an old story. Hell, are you not aware that 20 million Mormons believe something that they believe, like Joseph Smith actually met with an angel and everything like that and translated the reformed Egyptian golden plates that God took back into heaven into English? Like, that was less than 200 years ago. But you're saying that someone in 380 would be able to know for a fact that something more than 350 years prior actually happened.
Right, I know what you're saying. I
Okay.
don't, what I'm
Well, then you need to
asking,
realize that that line of questioning is really stupid.
no, I'm asking for, if you do believe that Jesus isn't an actual person that walked
Correct.
during the time that people were being persecuted and killed and that Christianity was taking over Rome.
Persecuted? Are you talking about the
I-
early 4th century? Because Christianity was not officially illegal before then.
Well, okay, can I finish my question?
Well, I don't know what you're asking
Well,
because
that's because I can't finish it.
Well, no, it's because you're saying something that's not a real thing. So I don't know what time you're talking about. You're saying that during the time that it's being persecuted. When is that? When do you think that is?
Okay, so then during the time of when this quote unquote non-Jesus person lived,
Okay.
when
Oh, sorry.
people were saying,
Okay.
hey, this Jesus guy lived and he died and he resurrected, how come someone couldn't have just said, hey, this guy's not real? Like, come on.
They don't claim
like,
that Jesus
stop.
existed until the middle of the 2nd century. That's my point. The New
Yeah,
Testament is not written in the 1st century, it's written in the middle of the 2nd. So by the time that the people are writing these
wait,
stories,
the New
their
Testament
grandparents.
isn't written until 2nd century?
Yes, the New Testament is not written until the middle of the 2nd century.
So what do we say about, we obviously have P52, where that's 150
No.
AD.
Are you?
P52?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So on your screen, let me see if I can pull this up here for you. On your screen is P52. It is at the University of Manchester at the John Rylands Research Institute and Library. And when we read on their website specifically what it has to say, it says, widely regarded as the earliest portion of any New Testament writing ever found, it provides us with invaluable evidence on the spread of Christianity in the provinces of the Roman Empire in the first centuries of our era. The first editor, in other words, the person you're listening to, dated the fragment to the first half of the 2nd century between 100 to 150. The date was estimated paleographically by comparing the handwriting with other manuscripts. Recent research points to a date nearer to 200, but there is as yet no convincing evidence that any earlier fragments from the New Testament survive. So the place that it's actually housed has been studied or has studied it, and they've shown that it comes out to about 200 or so. That's because when it's dated, what they do is they, like it says paleographically, that means that they take a look at other texts from the time and they say, oh, like this person, like I'll give you an example in English, like they put like a tail at the end of their A's or something. And so somebody else puts a tail at their end of their A's and they're writing at this point. So this must mean that it's about the same time. That is last resort. That is horrible. And it's not very accurate at all. So what ends up happening is they have to have more information come in, and as more information comes in, they have a better idea as to when people wrote at in a certain way. So as more information came in, they ended up moving that date later from 100 to 150 all the way to 200. So there is no evidence whatsoever that any piece of the New Testament shows up at the beginning of the 2nd century. This now places the Gospel of John, which is what P52 is. It's about the size of a credit card.
Yeah.
Size of a credit card. It now places it, as far as manuscript evidence goes, at 200. Now, I wouldn't say that the Gospel of John is written in 200. I would say that the Gospel of John is probably written sometime in the 160s, which is around the same time that it's first quoted or mentioned. But nevertheless, yeah, there's no evidence whatsoever that the New Testament was written prior to the middle of the first or middle of the second.
Right. So
go ahead.
So if it is written in 200, I'll grant you that.
Well,
Let's say
not,
it's written.
well, P52
well, not
is
written.
not
Sorry,
John.
we have this fragment that's from 200.
Yeah.
But you're saying it was written in, would you say, like 160? Is that
Yeah,
what you
I would
said?
say that the Gospel of John is 160. But nevertheless, all of this points to the idea that these people, because this is all talking about your argument earlier, you were saying, why didn't they say he didn't exist? Because they didn't claim that until the middle of the second. The first Gospel shows up 114 years after the supposed death of Jesus. Even the grandparents of somebody who was writing these texts in the middle of the second weren't alive to see potentially Jesus. So it's not like they didn't, there was no one around to say, hey, this didn't happen. Like,
so then,
they're
so
not
then
capable
what
of doing
about
that.
what about the writings of Paul then?
What about him?
Yeah. Do you have an? Oh, so the claim is that Paul's writings were actually dated before the Gospels, or written before the Gospels.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean,
Because that would have
it
been before
depends.
John.
Like, yeah. Paul's letters come out before John.
And he was claiming that Jesus was a real person. What do you have any
I mean,
comments
not
on
exactly.
that,
The
then?
first iterations of Paul's letters that we have come out in the Marcionite canon known as the New Testament. He's the first one to call it the New Testament. This guy's name is Marcion. He's a Christian theologian who publishes in 144. And the Pauline epistles at that point are much more, if you will, stripped down, or much more lighter. They're smaller than what we have today in the canonical versions. And in 144, these versions do not present Jesus as an actual human being who existed, because that wasn't part of Marcion's theology. The first gospel that's published does not have Jesus as a human being. He descends out of heaven as a fully grown man, as a God who is a descendant of God the Father, a previously unknown God, who is separate from Yahweh. And the belief system there is that Jesus comes down and starts these institutions like the Eucharist and healings and teachings and shit like that, and then he pretty much dies and fucks off. That's about the. He doesn't even ascend. He just kind of ends. It just kind of ends. The point is, the Pauline epistles also show up about this time and do not include any kind of information about how Jesus actually lived. Even the canonical versions today, like the versions that have been edited and everything like that into what we have today and been added to, they don't include a lot of like biographical information of Jesus. Like, it doesn't say anything about Mary, says nothing about the virgin birth or being born in Bethlehem or anything like that, because that wasn't part of the Marcionite belief. He wasn't born. And since the Pauline letters have a core of Marcion's first version of them, it's not gonna talk about that shit. Like, it's even when the versions that we have today from Paul talk about Jesus as if he was a real person, because they've been edited, they still didn't edit enough in to say that Jesus was born here and shit like that.
Interesting. I'll have to look more up about that. So then, like the Acts written by Luke and
No.
like the Gospel, you don't believe that?
Where does it say it's written by Luke?
Contextual clues in the first chapter.
Okay. It's written by the same person who wrote the Gospel of Luke?
Correct.
Okay. Where does Luke say it's written by Luke?
In Luke?
Yeah.
Again, contextual clues.
There's no
Within the
contextual clues in
gospel.
Luke that it's saying that it's written by Luke. That's not a thing.
All right. So then, when it was written, you would say at what point was the gospel
Luke,
text
between
written?
chapters 4 through 22, straight up use Evangeline, which is the gospel published by Marcion in 144. So Luke has to be post 144.
So you like for sure think that that is the
Yes,
case, even
I
though
am.
there's
I am
writings
just as
since.
there
Go
are
ahead.
no mentions of Luke or anything like that. No quotations of Luke or anything of the sort for Luke or Acts prior to 144. Not even fucking close. There's no mention of multiple gospels until 155 by Justin Martyr mentioning memoirs of the apostles. So no, that dog won't hunt. You're not going to get anywhere there. That being said, Luke itself, at best, is mentioned in 155 by Justin Martyr when he says that Jesus sweat drops of blood, which is only found in the Gospel of Luke, but he does not say that he got it from a gospel or anything like that. After that, the first time that Luke is really mentioned is like 180. So
Right. So
no.
the book of Acts, not Luke.
Well,
Let's say
sweet. The
Luke
book of Acts
isn't
comes
the
after
author.
Luke.
Okay, so the book of Acts, you said chapters 4 to what was that?
22.
That were
Roughly chapters
22
4
were
through
written
22.
when?
Well, they come from Evangeline, which was published in 144.
So when was it written?
Like
that was
late 130s, early 140s.
So how does the Gospel of Luke, if it's written in 140s, have what it seems to be, and like later chapters when Paul is traveling, it seems to have
The Gospel of Luke doesn't have that.
no, I said, oh, did I say Gospel of Luke? I meant the book of Acts, sorry.
Okay.
How does the book of Acts and like the later chapters have what it seems to be very specific details that an eyewitness would only be able to write down?
What? What are you talking about?
All right, I can pull it up.
Sure. It's almost as if someone's not capable of writing fiction from a person's perspective. Like, just it's impossible. You never heard of that before? Like the details of like how like Achilles' mother dipped him into the river Styx, but she didn't hold on to his ankle. Like, how would you know that unless you were there?
Right. I mean, if that's what you want to chalk it up to, but it
I mean,
seems
that's
like
what you're doing. So that's really
Well,
stupid.
Well, it seems like the literary style is written in the fact that
Yeah, it's like a
it
mythology.
is someone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's like a mythology. Yeah.
So
The
then who wrote
literary
it then,
style is
you're saying?
mythology. In fact, it even like switches over to we passages whenever it's talking about like traveling in ships, which is what the Odyssey does. It's like mythology.
So then who wrote it then
Acts, probably Polycarp or Irenaeus.
during that time? And they would add the
I don't know
we,
what
you're
during that
saying?
time means. I don't know what that means.
They would add the we.
Yeah, because that's just what you would do back then. Whenever it's like a traveling scene, you would say we.
If so, you're saying that them claiming to be the writers, you said Irenaeus and I forget the other one.
Irenaeus or Polycarp? Yeah, why?
So you're saying that they are claiming the we as in they were with Paul?
That's how you wrote that style, that genre. It's like mythology. It's like a traveling sequence.
So okay, so then your claim is that they were lying by writing the we.
Yeah, dude. It's fiction. That's how things work. I mean, did Homer lie when he said we talking about like Odysseus getting on a fucking boat?
I was just asking. That's it. So
Yeah,
so
like,
where do you
I
get?
don't know what to
where do
tell
you
you.
get? So
I
where do
mean,
you get
nevertheless,
Polycarp and Irenaeus?
Acts, because
Go ahead.
Polycarp and Irenaeus' style comes up the closest there with Luke. But I can't tell you for sure that that's who did it, but they're also the first people to even say that it was written by Luke. Irenaeus is.
Didn't Polycarp write like? Wait, Polycarp?
Yep.
His writing style?
Yeah. Why?
Where do you get that the writing of Polycarp?
The writing from Polycarp? Like from the writings of Polycarp?
Yeah, I thought there was only one of those.
And?
Actually, wait. You're saying that Polycarp himself wrote the writings of Polycarp?
No, I meant like Polycarp and his ghost. Of course, I mean Polycarp himself. What the fuck else would I mean?
I thought it was Ignatius that wrote that.
Ignatius that wrote what?
The epistle of Polycarp.
You think the initial of the epistle of
Yeah, the one
Polycarp
that came
was
after
written by
Polycarp
Ignatius?
was the one that composed and actually put those things together.
No, that's just the precursor to the Ignatius letters. The Ignatius letters, like I believe the small recension is like, the foreword is written by Polycarp. That's the idea.
Okay,
Ignatius
so
comes back
then,
as its own person.
so then, can you show me how the literary style is the same as the Book of Acts? Then
I'm saying that would be the closest. I'm not saying Polycarp or Irenaeus did it, but it doesn't fucking matter. I didn't make any
well,
definitive. I didn't make any definitive like connection there. The point is,
well, I
Acts is
asked you
still.
who wrote it,
Well,
and you
I
said
said
Polycarp or
I said
Ignatius.
maybe or probably them. That's our best guess. But I'm
Great,
not
then can
making
you
a
show me
I'm
that?
not making a definitive thing. So no, I'm not going to. I'm not saying that they did. What
So
I'm
then you
saying,
don't know for sure
even if
who
I don't
wrote
know
it.
who,
Then
even if I don't know, it's still after 144. That's the point. So it doesn't make any fucking difference
and
if it's Ignatius. It doesn't make any difference if it's Polycarp, Irenaeus, or a guy named Kevin. It doesn't make any fucking difference. It's not
well,
Luke who is presented in the New Testament as somebody in the first century. So
so
it's
then
not going to
can
get you
you?
anywhere.
Well, then can you show me then that it was specifically wrote during that time of Polycarp and Ignatius? Then
I can show you
'Cause-
that it's post 144 is what I can do. The first person,
yeah. Can you show me?
yeah. Okay, so Acts is written by what you believe to be the first person or the person who wrote Luke, correct?
Yes.
Okay, not a problem. So when we take a look at Luke, all we have to do is just confirm that it is after. Well, actually, no. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to say, because Acts 1, just to kind of show everybody, it says in the first book, Theophilus. So that's how you're able to connect it, because Luke 1 actually says, I'm writing to you, Theophilus. So it's right there. Okay? So not only did Theophilus, by the way, so if you want anything that's kind of sort of close to like Polycarp or Irenaeus, Theophilus is a bishop of Antioch that starts in like the 160s. And there's another person who Eusebius says is named Theophilus in the 150s to 160s who is a revered person. But I digress. The point is, whenever we take a look at Luke, all we got to do is just date it after 144 and we're good to go. Luke 4, which is the testing of Jesus there from Satan. Prior to that, Luke 1 talks about the birth of John the Baptist. Luke 2 talks about the birth of Jesus. Luke 3, and Jesus in the temple. And Luke 3 talks about the baptism
Wait,
of Jesus.
we're looking at the Gospel of Luke?
Yes, as opposed to what of Luke?
We were talking about Acts.
Yeah, Acts comes after Luke, right?
Right.
So all I've got to show is that Luke is after 144. That's all that I have to do. Do you have a
Okay.
problem with that?
Yeah. I mean,
What's your
I
problem with that?
mean,
If Acts comes after Luke and Luke is post 144, is Acts prior to 144?
so you're gonna show me that Luke is 144, and then you're also gonna show me that Acts was prior
No.
or
All I'm
after.
going to do
Sorry.
is just all I'm going to do is ask you, did Acts come after Luke?
And I would say yes.
Okay. So that's all I got
Well,
to do then.
writing. Actually, I don't know. I'm not. I don't
Okay.
know.
So when he says in my first book, what does that mean?
Right. It was written by him, but when do we
Okay.
know it was actually like sent out composed?
In the first book, Theophilus, I wrote about all that Jesus began to do and teach. So do you believe
Okay.
that Acts is written by the same person who wrote Luke?
I would say that when you look things up, most of the time scholars agree it's Luke.
Sweet. I didn't ask that. I said, do you believe that it's written by the same person
Yeah, that's
who
what I
wrote
said.
the
Yes.
Gospel of Luke? Okay, cool. Is it after the Gospel of Luke?
Yes.
Okay. So there you go. So now we're going to go back to Luke. So as far as Luke goes, Luke chapter 1, I'm going to do this again. Luke chapter 1 is over the birth of John the Baptist. Luke 2 is the birth of Jesus and him going in the temple as a kid at the age of 12. Luke 3 is about Jesus' baptism, the ministry of John the Baptist starting, and then the ministry of Jesus starting along with his genealogy. Luke 4 begins with Jesus being tested in the desert by Satan. Then in verse 14, he goes to Galilee. Then Jesus, in the power of the Spirit, returned to Galilee. All right. Then in 16, he goes to Nazareth. When he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, as was his custom. He stood up to read and read the scroll of prophet Isaiah. So he starts reading and everything like that, and everybody's got a big old boner for it. So it says in verse 22, all spoke well of him and were amazed at the gracious words that came from his mouth. They said, "Is this not Joseph's son?" All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to read this verse right here. Read it out loud there.
He said to them, doubtless you will quote to me this proverb, Doctor, cure yourself. And you will say, do here also in your hometown the things that we have heard you did at Capernaum.
Yep. So in other words, he is saying, hey, I bet you're going to ask me to do miracles like I did back in Capernaum, right?
Right.
Sweet. That's exactly what he's saying. And unfortunately, he's never been to Capernaum. Hadn't done any miracles either. The first time he does this is down here in verse 31. He goes down to Capernaum, and that's the first miracle. First time he's been to Capernaum, first time he does the miracle. Now, the reason
what chapter is this again?
This is chapter 4.
Just so I'm following.
Yep. The reason for this, the reason why this is so damning is not only is it out of order, but this verse that you just read is only found in 2 Gospels. It is found in Luke, and it is found in Evangeline. Those are the only 2 Gospels. It is not found in Matthew. It's not found in Mark. It's not found in John. It's not found in shit else. All right? It is just found in Luke and Evangeline. And in Evangeline, which is the Gospel published by Marcion in 144, Tertullian, Origen, and Irenaeus, they all agree that it starts off with Jesus descending out of, or Jesus showing up in Capernaum. Tertullian says he descends out of heaven. That's the theology of Marcion. But nevertheless, it begins with Jesus in Capernaum. Verse 1, he comes down to Capernaum and does a miracle. Then he goes to Galilee and to Nazareth later on, reads from the scroll in the synagogue, and then that line happens. It's in order in Evangeline, but it doesn't have a birth story because Marcion didn't believe that Jesus was born here. The Gospel of Luke, that author didn't like the idea of Jesus descending down. He wanted Jesus to be born here. So he takes out that part and he says, nope. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to have Jesus being born here. We're going to establish that his cousin is John the Baptist. All this extra bullshit in chapter 1, 2, and 3, which isn't in Evangeline at all. And then they start using it in chapter 4. And it's out of place because the author of the Gospel of Luke is a fucking moron. Now, that being said, this is proof that he is using things that came out prior, like Evangeline, which he pretty much already kind of says anyways. He says that there were things that were already around. Many have undertaken to compile a narrative of the events that have been fulfilled among us. He's explicitly saying that he's going to write it in order as well. So if you're like, well, maybe he just didn't write it in order. Nope, he says, I too decided, as one having a grasp of everything from the start, to write a well-ordered account for you. So he's saying that he's going to write it in order and then completely shits all over it because he's taking from a gospel that was already around known as Evangeline. In fact, Irenaeus himself says that the Marcionites, the followers of Marcion, believed that their gospel came out first and Luke added to that and then made the Gospel of Luke. He's explaining that people are saying that very same thing during that time, during his time. Irenaeus is a contemporary of Marcion.
Interesting. That'll be something that I have to look into. So then, outside of these things, I'm curious. What exactly is your worldview then?
My worldview is that Jesus and Paul never existed.
Interesting. Okay. So even Paul then.
Yep.
So
well, it's kind of hard for Paul to have been somebody who wrote these things in the middle of the 1st century when they show up in the 2nd.
So then, where those come from then?
The Marcionites. The Marcionites, the first New Testament canon has Evangeline, which is the gospel that gets used for Luke and everything like that. They're in 144, as well as 9 or 10 different books written in the style of letters attributed to Paul. And they're like early versions of them, if you will, or smaller versions of the Pauline letters that don't have any additions to them. The additions that get made over the next few decades are what make the canonical version of Paul that we have today. And this is not something that I'm just saying. This is something that is backed up by here recently multiple scholars that some use data science, some use just like understanding of text and whatnot in history. But there are multiple scholars that you can look at that talk about 2nd century writings there from Christians and realize that some of the Gospels and definitely the Pauline epistles first show up in 144.
Great. So then you're saying other scholars say those things. What about the scholars that say the opposite?
There's no evidence whatsoever to back up their claims. That's the problem. The ones who are actually saying that this shows up in the 2nd century are able to back it up by either data science, like analysis, or by just history, but like from contemporaries. We don't have any contemporaries or anybody talking about these things there in the 1st century. There's no one who even mentions Gospels in the 1st century.
Mm.
So, I mean, you can say that they exist in the 1st century all you want, but you don't have any evidence for it. That's the problem. So these
Interesting.
scholars
So
who are saying, oh, hey, these things are from the 1st century, they're just kind of pulling it out of their ass, or it's wishful thinking at best.
So you're saying that is like 100% conclusive. Like Bible is not true. It's like made up by those guys during that time.
I mean, yeah, I would say that based off of the evidence that we have of Jesus or the writings we have of Jesus, all these different things that we can take a look at and the tools that we have to analyze these things, Jesus and Paul did not exist. Now, if you want to say that there's some other information that is out there floating around that we haven't deciphered or we haven't translated or dug up or something, fine, that's okay. But until then, Jesus and Paul did not exist based off
Right,
of the evidence that we have today.
So then if that evidence is extremely clear, then how come there's still people the other way that
Because the
refute
majority
that?
of scholars on this particular topic are religious themselves. I mean, the evidence
and the
is
ones
extremely
that
clear,
aren't?
and I just walked you through it. You're probably going to disconnect here, still believing that Jesus and Paul existed. So it's that easy. You're literally a walking, talking example of somebody who can stare evidence in the face and still believe it. So why is it unfathomable to you that scholars can do the same thing?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I'm extremely ignorant and haven't studied this topic.
Not
So,
anymore. I just showed it to you.
right, I haven't studied this topic myself. And like
Okay.
to be
Well, a lot of
100% fair,
scholars do not actually analyze things using like stellometry and stuff like that. Not because they don't think it's real, because most scholars actually do lean upon stellometry a ton. But on top of that, they're again religious. They're religious. They're just they're people who are
every
unfamiliar
scholar
with.
that confirms that Jesus is a person simply is because they're religious.
No, what I'm saying is the majority of scholars who are within the field of religious scholarship or New Testament scholarship are religious, but there are some who are non-religious who are still relying upon religious tropes or religious tradition. I mean, that's the thing. Like Bart Ehrman, for instance, he's an atheist / agnostic. He says that Jesus definitely existed, and his ace in the hole is that Jesus had a brother named James, or said to have had a brother named James, and Paul says that he met James. That's his thing. To quote Bart Ehrman, you can't have a brother and not exist. But unfortunately, the earliest iterations of Paul's letters don't have James, the brother of Jesus, in it. They just don't. And on top of that, there's no mention of Paul outside of Christianity ever in antiquity. So what I'm saying here is that in order for Bart Ehrman to make that claim about Paul meeting the brother of Jesus, or Paul saying that he's meeting the brother of Jesus, he has to take the Christians at their word. He has to say, okay, you guys said that Paul said this. I'm going to believe you. You guys have said that he said this about James specifically in the 1st century, and I'm going to believe you. And you're going to say that these texts were written at this point in time, and I'm going to believe you. There's no evidence whatsoever that Paul existed in the 1st century, let alone wrote text and existed in the 1st century that mentioned James. None. He just has to take the church's word for it. So unfortunately, there are atheists who rely upon church tradition and say it's reliable to some extent, so I'm just going to go with it. But on the flip side, there are scholars who recognize that Paul was not writing until, or these Pauline letters don't get written until the middle of the 2nd, and the earliest versions don't have James, the brother of Jesus. So they don't make that fucking argument. They don't say that.
Interesting. So what do you do about the Old Testament? Would you say that that's reliable in some of the things that it says?
I mean, very little. Some kinda, I guess, maybe. I would say that overall the Bible has roughly, I struggle to say 1 to 2% accuracy. I maybe 1%.
Really?
Like, it's pretty bad. Yeah.
So what do you say about the Dead Sea Scrolls then?
What about them?
Well, we just said the Old Testament, and you just said that it's 1% accurate.
Yeah. What is the Dead Sea Scrolls? What do they have to do anything?
Well, you said that 1% of the Old Testament is accurate,
Like
but when we
historically,
look
yeah.
like, oh, you're saying like as historical facts,
Yeah,
it's
like what
1%
did you
accurate?
mean?
I meant reliable, as in these are writings. That's what I was asking.
All books are writings.
Writings from the people that it claims to be written by. That's what I was asking.
Oh.
And like the people that
Well,
were
then
mentioned in there,
no,
that
that's
they're
even
actual
worse.
people at actual
That's even
times.
worse because what would the Dead Sea Scrolls mean of that anyways? Because the earliest the Dead Sea Scrolls go is 250 BCE. All the writings were supposedly done by that point.
Right, and
So how would the
that's
Dead Sea Scrolls help you at all?
right. But that's why I'm trying to learn right now, and that's what
No,
I'm
the Dead
asking.
Sea Scrolls date to at earliest 250 BCE. So that wouldn't
So
help you with the actual validity of like or authorship or something like that. The actual historical content doesn't help you either because again, why would anybody be getting things from 3000 BCE correct in something that they wrote in 250 BCE? So like,
right,
yeah, it's pretty obvious that historically it's dog shit. But from an authorship standpoint, it's also mostly dog shit. But most of the Old Testament doesn't actually say who's writing it though. Most of it. There's maybe a few things that say this is who's writing it, but very few. It's mostly like prophets and stuff that try to say that they're writing things. Prophets or
right. So then you would
maybe some of the
say,
Psalms or something or Proverbs.
right. So when you say like the 1%, you would say like all the people that are talked about in the Old Testament. You would say that those are also not people that ever existed.
Yeah, I would say that there's very little of the Old Testament that is historically accurate, and of those things
So
that are
none of those
historically
people
accurate,
existed either.
yeah, especially not in those ways. But when it comes to the things that are historically accurate, it's still told through the lens of like religious propaganda. Like when it talks about Jericho's walls being destroyed, it's like, yeah, that's because by the time you guys got to that area, Jericho was already destroyed. So you just came up
So
with a story about how you destroyed it. And
so
that's all that it is.
yeah, I can understand where you're coming from, but you're saying that none, or at least like 1% of all the people that were mentioned, they didn't exist.
Yeah, the majority of the people. Yeah. Yep.
So
Absolutely.
like pretty much everyone that was named in the Bible, just like are made up people for whatever reason people made them up.
Yeah. That's how that works. And even if they did exist in some kind of natural form, they wouldn't be the same version that's presented in the Old Testament. Like even if there was a version of Moses, very clearly he's not the one that's presented in the Old Testament. Doesn't make any sense.
Could there have been a version of Jesus that's just not presented in the New Testament?
I mean, if there's a version of Jesus that's not presented in the New Testament, he's a Jesus in name only because a Jesus couldn't do all the things in the New Testament, not just the supernatural things, because the natural things sometimes don't even line up with each other. Like Matthew says that Jesus is born 10 years before Luke says he's born. So if you're going to pick a Jesus who existed outside of the New Testament, either he's the one that's Matthew says, he's the one that Luke says, or he's neither of them. He can't be both. So the New Testament Jesus is right out. So you're going to have to pick someone else. And he'd just be a Jesus in name only at that point, or a Gino.
Interesting. So then, how do you approach historical people then, like outside of the Bible? Is it the same way?
Yep.
So then, who? I'm very curious. You saying that all the people in the Bible just don't exist?
I
Who
didn't
in
say that.
history?
I said most.
Okay, 1%,
No,
or is that just historical facts?
that's just historical reliability.
Okay, so then, if most of the people in the Bible didn't exist,
Mhm.
I'm curious who in history doesn't exist to you that a lot of people think actually did.
Oh, I have no idea. Santa
Oh, you
Claus?
haven't done. Who? Sorry.
Santa Claus? I guess I don't fucking know.
Oh, I'm
Like
just curious if you.
most people when they say, "Oh, hey, this person existed," it's usually maybe I don't know John the Baptist. Are we talking like extra biblical people?
No, I'm just talking about people in general because I'm curious if you
Oh, Peter,
approach
Paul,
other. I'm saying other people
Mary.
out I'm saying other people outside of the Bible. I'm curious if you approach them with the same
Okay, extra biblical
criticism.
people. Yeah, I mean, I do, but for the most part, when we say that people existed in history, it's because we have a good reason. Religious people, religious characters, they get a special pass. They don't analyze the text of the New Testament the same way that they do, like the Iliad or the Odyssey, which is dog shit. I'm not saying that the Iliad or Odyssey are dog shit. Well, I mean, they're fictional, but nevertheless, I'm saying it's dog shit to do that, or it's chicken shit to do that. What they're doing is they're saying, "Oh, hey, no, we're gonna approach the New Testament, these white gloves and everything like that. We're going to be very careful with it because there's an act of religion that's
Right.
worshiping this shit."
So like people like Caesar, or like even just like not even people like that big,
Caesar
but
existed.
right. So I'm asking, do you approach like those things with the
Yes.
same criticism, or is your
Yes.
specialty more in like biblical people?
Yes, I do. Yes. Now, if I've studied them, I haven't studied everybody in history or every claim in history, but the ones that I have studied, I approach with the same fervor.
Right. And I'm asking, who have you studied?
Caesar, Alexander the Great, Pilate.
Does Alexander the Great exist?
Yes.
Interesting. Is there anyone else, or is it more focused on this?
Those you asked me for people, and I just gave you people.
Right. I'm just.
We're not just going to
curious.
go
That's
through a
it.
list of all claims of people in history. I'm not going to do that.
I'm not. I was just curious. It seems
Well, I
like
gave you
that
some
you're really
people.
into it, and it seems like you understand what you look into. And so I
Sweet,
was
yeah.
just
And
very
so I named
curious.
some people there for you. But we're not just going to venture off into La La Land, just naming a whole bunch of people. Anything else?
No, I was just asking.
Yeah.
But all right.
Cool. And I
Yeah,
answered. All right.
I'll definitely look into these things. Yeah, no, I appreciate your time. So, one last question, if you don't mind, unless you want me to go. So you're saying that the Bible just simply bang flat out, not true historical claims, 1% or reliability,
Maybe.
1%,
And
possibly.
that's a maybe 1%.
Yeah, big maybe. So I'm curious, what do you have to say to all the people that do believe in these things? What do you suppose that they do? I'm curious.
They're believers of a religion. They believe it for religious purposes as opposed to historical purposes.
So what do you suppose that they do? That's what I'm asking.
Stop believing false things and believe something that's true.
What is true then?
Things
To
that
you,
have evidence behind it.
like what? What do you believe in then?
Things that have evidence behind it have evidence behind it. It's pretty self-explanatory.
So like when it comes to like a god or like a religious sect or even just like an atheism, what do you believe in then that has the most evidence?
Are you asking like what's the alternative or something? Like if there's no Bible, then what else do I believe? Is that what you're asking?
No. Okay, maybe I can lay it out in a
I mean,
better
that's
way.
pretty much what it sounds. It sounds like you're asking if
As
there's no master, whose slave will I be?
No, I'm asking you specifically. I don't know your name. I'm asking as someone, you, who has
Mhm.
dug into these things
Mhm.
and clearly have a grasp on texts and other
Mhm.
different things. I'm curious what you suppose is the truth to
Reality.
believe in.
History. History is the truth.
So then you want to have like God tied in there. You want to, or would you claim like an atheism in there?
Why
Would you?
do I need to do that?
No,
What am I
I'm
needing to
just
do that
asking.
for? No,
I'm just asking.
I'm asking you. It's that's a weird thing. You're just asking. Like that's a
I'm
weird
just
thing to ask.
I'm just
Like
asking.
why do I need
As
to
someone who,
approach why do I need to approach history and say, hey, here's an alternative like belief or something like that, or here's an alternative religion to what you had before. Why would I do that?
No. I'm not even talking about like I'm debating or like asking like any. I'm simply asking, what do you believe as someone who approaches things historically?
I believe things that have accuracy or things that have evidence, and I want
So
other
there's
people to
nothing.
do the same thing.
So there's nothing specific that you want to label those things or anything like that.
Truth, history. What are you looking for, dude? Like
I'm asking.
believe as many true things as possible and stop believing as many false things as possible.
So then you would say God as a whole is a false thing. That's what I'm trying to ask.
When
Like,
did I
what do
say
you
that? If
believe
you've got
in?
evidence for him, then you've got evidence for him. It's not that big of a deal, dude. Like just believe things with evidence. It's not. How hard is that to get through your skull?
No. I hear what you're saying. I'm simply
Okay.
asking you as a person, what do
Okay.
you believe in? That's what
I
I'm
believe
asking.
that Jesus and Paul didn't exist. I believe in things that have evidence.
Okay, so then you don't want to disclose what you believe in outside
What
of
I
those
just
things.
told you what I do. I believe that Jesus and Paul didn't exist. I believe that I believe that George Lucas made Star Wars. Like, what the fuck do you want me to say? Like, I don't know what you're asking.
I was just wondering if you're an atheist or theist. That's simply
What
what
does
I'm
that
asking.
have to do with whether or not things happen?
I was just curious.
Okay.
Like, I'm just curious, and you can say no. I don't want to answer. Like,
Well, I've told you, I've answered your question so far, but now you're explicitly asking me, am I an atheist versus a theist or something like that? And that's just an irrelevant question. It's an irrelevant question to whether or not people existed in history or whether or not things actually happen.
right? I know. I was just simply asking, as someone who's about to leave and probably won't talk to you again. I was just very curious,
Gotcha.
like outside of this topic. If you don't want to say anything, then it's
Okay.
not.
Well, yeah, I don't really answer irrelevant questions, but I can tell you, if there's no evidence for God, then you probably shouldn't believe it. If there's evidence for God, then believe it.
So, okay, so as someone who looks into evidence, would you say that there is or isn't evidence for him?
I haven't looked into evidence for God. Why would I?
Okay. All right, sounds good. Well, then I'm going to get going. I was just curious. So, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I will definitely look into these things.
Okay.
All right, have a good one.
All right, let's see here. $5 from Alan0465 says, Justin's apology is such a gift. The Greek legends are myths of the poets, and the Christian tales of Jesus do, quote, nothing new. Perseus's tale, same as Jeebus. Yeah, see, it is really interesting. I talked to somebody not long ago who I'd never communicated with him before, but it was really cool. He was on TikTok and he said, I don't think that Jesus existed. And I was like, really? Why not? And he said, because I read Greek mythology and I started to realize that this is all found in in the New Testament. Like, this is all found in the Bible. This is all found. So it's pretty obvious that this is just another version of mythology, and people have just kind of whitewashed it, kind of cleaned it up a little bit and presented it. It's clearly not a real story. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Interesting how you got there. So I do think that reading a lot of the early Christians, they do talk a lot about the Greeks and try to differentiate themselves, but they also kind of point out some of the similarities, which is hilarious, because it's like, yeah, dude, like, you've got the Eucharist, because the Eucharist itself, like eating bread to symbolize flesh and drinking wine to symbolize blood, that had been around for a long time, and they admit it. And it's like, okay, like, come on. You're nothing new, which is what Alan was saying. Good on you, Alan, for pointing that out. Very, very deep pulls there. $10 there from Marv. Oh my God. Okay, no, he's just asking questions. I was like, oh my God, here comes another sarcastic thing. $10 there from Marv says, do you think Irenaeus saying Polycarp was, quote, a hearer of John could be a reference to John's author being he or Polycarp, since he's the first to quote it and Polycarp never mentions knowing John? I think Irenaeus saying Polycarp was a hearer of John could be a reference to John's author being he or Polycarp. Possibly. You know what? That's actually a good point. What's the comment that's on that? Aaron said rude. I see no sarcasm. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. Bread to flesh is insane, Amadeus. And by the way, Amadeus Almighty. Go check him out. Guys. Amadeus Almighty is on TikTok. Talks about all kinds of stuff. Not just about Jesus or Paul. In fact, he hates talking about Jesus and Paul. He hates it. And if you go up there and talk about Jesus and Paul, he's going to hate you. Nah. But he does talk a lot about, like, really cool, like, science, evolution, origin of the world, that kind of stuff. It's really cool. Really cool stuff. Go check it out. Amadeus Almighty. He is not only a TikToker and content creator, he's also a musician. And a friend of mine. He's also an author, by the way. I don't know if that's something that, like, I'm allowed to disclose, but he is an author. I bought his book is good. Like, it's like it's not nonfiction or anything. It's fiction, but it's good. It's good. I don't really typically read fiction, but it was good. It was a good book. It was a good book. Anyways. Oh, he's got 2 books. And if you want to know what they are, check out Amadeus Almighty over there on TikTok. Amadeus Almighty. Okay. They are good. Yeah, I just have one. I didn't know there was a second one. Why did I not know there was a second one? Anyways, but yeah, that's a really good point, Marv. I'm actually gonna write that down here. Hear of John, possible Polycarp connection. It's pretty good. All right, that's a really good point. I've never really considered it that, but like he could say like, hey, Polycarp is a hero of John, which is why I know that he has this book or whatever. That's a good point. $4.99 from Zedbout says, sup, do you know much about the copper scroll that was found in one of the caves of Qumran in 1952? A super secret treasure map. Oof, I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't know what you're talking about. Let me actually, as I'm bringing these guests up here, I'm trying to figure out the copper scroll Qumran. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? The copper scroll is one of the Dead Sea Scrolls found in Cave 3, Qumran, but differs significantly from the others. Whereas the other scrolls are written on parchment or papyrus, this scroll is written on metal, copper mixed with about 1% tin. Interesting. It differs... Okay, unlike the others, it is not a literary work, but a list of 64 places where various items of gold and silver were buried and hidden. I'm not going to give in to the stereotype. It differs from the other scrolls in its Hebrew, closer to the language of the Mishnah than to the literary Hebrew or other scrolls. Interesting. I don't know if I've ever heard of it. It's like national treasure, but for Judea. What? That's insane.
So you don't believe in Jesus?
Anyways, Lady Huggy's got to go. So who are we talking to here? Who's up here? Who was that? Who was saying something?
That was me.
Okay, well that's not very helpful because there's multiple people up here. But Crisp Alliances.
Yes, sir.
Crisp, what you got?
So you don't believe in Jesus? That's what I'm getting from this. Okay, all right. I'm new to this. I got you. So how do you get your historic data? So if something like Julius Caesar was real, how would you confirm or deny that?
How would I confirm? I would take a look to see if there's things from that time period that mention him.
Like historical data, scriptures, people writing about him?
Yeah, all of it, yeah.
Okay, so you believe in Julius Caesar?
Yep.
Okay, so what's the problem with Jesus?
Because Julius Caesar, we have contemporary evidence for. We don't have that for Jesus.
You have thousands of more manuscripts about Jesus.
Does the amount of copies of a text somehow make it true?
You know, it's historical. What do you mean? It's historical evidence.
Okay, so there's millions of copies of Harry Potter. Is he true?
Oh, come on. That's completely different.
Well,
I'm
you
talking
just
about
pointed to the
eyewitness
amount of copies. Okay, well, where's the eyewitness testimony?
testimonies.
Where's the
Yeah,
eyewitness testimony for Jesus?
There's thousands of eyewitness
Sweet.
testimonies.
Name one eyewitness testimony from Jesus or about Jesus.
His apostles.
Like, name one. Name a text.
Mark.
Okay. All right. Who was Mark?
Mark was one of Jesus' apostles.
Like the disciples?
Yes.
Okay, so really quick, this is going to be the first time that you've ever seen this, so this is going to be embarrassing, but whenever we take a look at the list of the disciples, we have Peter, Andrew, James, the son of Zebedee, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew, James, son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, or Jude, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot. Eventually, he is replaced by Matthias, who is later on. So, did I mention the word Mark in there?
Okay, so it's one of his apostles, right?
No.
So you're telling me Mark was not one of his apostles? Hey, that smug fucking look on your face.
We're gonna try this
stupid,
again.
dog.
We're gonna try this
You're
again.
so stupid, dog.
We're gonna try
you're
this
really
again.
Stupid.
All right.
You're
Peter,
really stupid, I'm
Andrew,
being
James,
honest.
John, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew, James,
Okay,
Thaddeus,
okay.
Simon, Judas.
Peter, okay, go with Peter. Go with Peter. Was he one of his apostles? Was he an eyewitness testimony?
Sweet. What gospel do we have from Peter?
He's an eyewitness testimony, is he not?
What testimony do we have from Peter?
It doesn't matter. He's an eyewitness testimony, is he not?
We don't have the testimony. What testimony are you referring to?
He's an eyewitness testimony. It doesn't matter.
He would be an eyewitness, but where's his testimony?
Okay. Okay, so are you saying that historians don't say that Jesus has actual
No.
proof of historical data? Is that what you're saying?
All right, listen. First of all, literally, and
Nah,
I
you're
mean this.
jumping.
I mean
'Cause
this
I'm gonna
as
give you Bert
serious as
Ehrman. I'm
possible.
gonna give you Bert Ehrman, and I'm gonna embarrass you right now.
So his
So
name
don't
isn't
go there.
Bert, but that
What's
being
his
said,
name?
his name's
What's
Bart.
his name? Bart Ehrman. Okay, I'll give you
Okay.
Bart Ehrman.
So really fast, you said we have. All right, can you calm your cock there in the background? Is that possible?
And
Or
he's
you live
just
in
a
a
stupid
fucking
dude.
like Little House on the Prairie or something?
I was born in a barn like you, buddy. Come on.
Okay.
You wearing a cowboy hat. What the fuck are you talking about?
All right.
You heard him?
Yep, I heard him the first fucking 5 times he crowed. Anyways, the point is, you said that we have eyewitness testimonies, all right? You then mentioned Mark, which is the stupidest thing you could do, and then you had me read off the list of 12 disciples multiple times because you've never read it before, because you've never actually read the Bible.
You
And Mark
decided
is
to do
not
it.
actually one of the
You decided
disciples.
to do it.
Then you had right here, you mentioned Peter, but you can't tell me where we have any testimony from Peter that he saw Jesus. Like,
Okay, but
he would be
just
an
asked you-
eyewitness,
okay.
but we don't have a testimony
Okay,
from him.
but I asked you.
Hermione Granger is an eyewitness to Harry Potter, but we don't have any testimony.
Wait,
from
I have
him.
a question. So you're an atheist, okay? So do you listen to
When
what Bart
did I
Ehrman
tell
says?
you I was an atheist?
Okay, well let me ask you this then, because if you don't have a stance, then you're a coward. Where's your stance at then?
I'm
Tell
a
me where your
Christian.
stance is.
I'm a Christian.
Get out of my face. You're a Christian. You're a coward, bro.
No.
This is what I hate about atheists. You guys are so depressed and miserable with your life. This is why you guys are the #1 suicide rate, is because you guys can't be honest. You guys can't be real with yourselves. Look
Cool.
at you. Yeah. So you're an atheist. You won't take Bart Ehrman.
I told you I was a Christian.
Who will tell you Jesus lived. He himself lived. He knows he lived, and that there's no question through historical data. Okay? Because guess
Okay,
what? If
so
you
what
throw out
evidence
the
does he
historical
point to?
data, if you throw away the historical data that
Like
proved
what?
Jesus was real,
What
you have to
historical
throw
data?
historical data. It's
What historical data?
manuscripts,
Give me the historical
eyewitness-
data.
I just told you. Same way you would get for Julius
What did
Caesar.
you tell me? What was the historical data?
I just told you historical data.
what
Historians-
historical data?
I just told you historians.
Name. Okay.
Going back,
Okay,
looking back at the life of
listen.
Jesus.
Okay, we're
and
gonna
seeing the
try
proof
this
of it.
again. You said that Bart Ehrman points to historical data. What historical data does he point to?
Okay. Wait, right here. I got you.
What's
Got
he
it in my
point to?
notes.
Oh, you got your
Give me
notes.
1 second.
Oh, okay.
He was right
Look
with
at
the book of Peter, guys. He says in Peter that he's an eyewitness to Jesus' life in the book of Peter in the Bible. But
Where does it say that?
No.
What verse says that? Well, we've got the eccentric who apparently is capable of actually like reading and writing, which is kind of impressive to me.
Okay,
going over his notes.
I can't go into my notes and read it, but I'm gonna try to break it down into sentence by sentence.
Okay.
But what Bart Ehrman said.
Okay.
Second Peter 1:16 through 18.
2 Peter? You think that was written by Peter?
Okay, I got it. It says Bart Ehrman says denying Jesus goes against all historical data that would give any qualification to any other historical person. Go ahead and look that up. Look it up yourself.
Okay, go ahead.
Look it up. Go ahead.
What did you say?
Oh my God. Bart Ehrman says that if you deny Jesus as a historical figure, then you are denying all types of historical evidence
Okay.
for other historical figures.
Okay, you presented no historical data.
That's what you're a fucking idiot. Bart Ehrman says it, you moron.
You just said you
You're
you
so
were
stupid.
taking a
You
look at
said,
the
"Give
historical
me a
data.
quote."
You
said,
didn't do
give
anything.
me a passage where Bart Ehrman says that, and I gave it to you where an
I didn't
atheist
say that.
himself says you're standing here
That's
saying
not what
Jesus
I asked
Paul
for.
never existed. One of the smartest atheists disagrees with you.
Cool.
Tüffelengel.
Yeah,
Tüff.
you said that was based on
Yeah, get
historical
outta here. You're
data,
done,
and then I
bro.
asked you
You're
to
done.
go
That's why
find the
there's
data, and then
300
you just
people on here,
quoted
bro.
Bart Ehrman again.
Bart
Where's
Ehrman,
the
'cause
data?
You told me to say, give me what Bart Ehrman says, but that's what Bart Ehrman says.
No. I didn't say where he says it. I said what
That's
is
what
the data he
said.
presented.
That's his stance.
I
That's
know
his
that
stance.
you told me his stance. You said
I
his
just
stance
said the
was
historical data. I'm not going to go into all
what
that.
historical data does he
manuscripts.
give?
The manuscripts, the eyewitness testimony, the
What
actual
eyewitness
proof of it.
testimony? Mark?
I just gave you 4 of them. It don't matter.
What?
I
You
give
didn't give
50,
4?
I give you
Okay,
500.
Okay,
It doesn't matter.
give me
I
one.
give you 500. It doesn't matter.
Give me
it won't
one.
change your mind. It
Give
has
me
nothing to do
one.
with it.
Give me
I don't
one.
have to. I don't have to. Your boy Bart Ehrman says it's true.
I
He
don't
says
know
there's
why
no
he's my
historical-
boy.
That's
I'm a
your boy,
Christian.
you atheist scum. Get out of here.
Okay,
Look at you. You're fucking cockeyed.
cool. So do you have any evidence that we have eyewitness testimony? You mentioned Mark, but you didn't know that he wasn't an eyewitness, and you tried to fight for that.
Again.
What else you
You
got?
lost. Your number one atheist, the smartest atheist in your community, disagrees with you.
Cool.
Where do you stand on that?
What other eyewitness testimony do we have? What eyewitness testimony do we have? You mentioned Mark, and he's not an eyewitness. What else we got?
I just told you historical data.
What historical data? You just keep saying there's things, but you're not saying what things. And you keep saying Bart Ehrman says things, but what does he say? Like, what things? What is he listing?
I have a whole article. I'm not going to go through the whole article. It's not happening. I'm just going to give you a breakdown. If you're too stupid to understand it, I get it.
It's not that I'm too stupid to understand it,
You're
it's that you're not
stupid.
providing anything.
You're stupid. Go look it up. You have a computer, look it up.
Cool.
it
So
up.
what am I looking up? What text am I looking up? I'll look it up.
To look up why does Bart Ehrman say Jesus is a real person?
Wait,
Look it up.
you want me to do your research?
Oh, you're
Is that what you're
down.
doing?
I can't log off. I can't get off my phone.
Yeah, you can. You were doing
Hey,
it
don't
earlier.
let me, no. Hey, I can do it for one sentence, not a whole fucking article.
All right, well then provide one sentence of historical data he points to. All I'm asking is for one eyewitness testimony, and you can't even give that. It's just one word.
It's not about eyewitness testimony because if you go, even when you go to historians like Tacitus, even when you go to
Tacitus.
things like that. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And
You
what
go
does
to
Tacitus say about Jesus?
Tacitus went and wrote about Christians, about Jesus being crucified.
Okay.
He went and got early Christian evidence of Christians in jail.
Oh, he
And
did?
he got he did.
Okay.
Go look it up. Go look it
And
up.
what does he say? Tell me what he says.
He says Jesus of Nazareth was.
He didn't say anything about Jesus, and he doesn't say
he
Nazareth.
does. Jesus of Nazareth was put in the trial by Pontius Pilate and was crucified by the Romans in the hands of the Jews.
Okay.
Go look it up.
So
Go look it up.
Tacitus does not say anything of that. So
You're a dumbass. It's in a book. This is how I know you're stupid. This is how you know you're stupid. It's in a book. He
Cool.
literally goes and gets the accounts of Christians who were in jail that were eyewitness testimony. You're stupid. Go look
Sweet.
it up.
So what we've got here is exactly what Tacitus wrote in Tacitus's Annals, Book 15, Section 44. There is no
Yep.
mention of the word Jesus and no mention of the word
And it
Nazareth.
says Christos.
Okay.
Christos. Who's Christos? You
Christos?
snake, you little serpent. You little serpent bitch.
Sweet.
Well, who's Christos? Who is it?
What do you think that means?
Who's Christos? Who's Christos?
Sweet.
Tell me.
What does that mean?
Christ, you moron.
Sweet. And
You
what
moron.
is Christ a
You
name or a
dumb
title?
Moron. Look at all the 300 people in here. Look where this guy's leading you. This
Mm-hmm.
fucking little micro penis idiot is gonna lead you to hell. I promise
Sweet.
you. I
So
promise you,
is
he's gonna lead
Christ
you to-
a name or a
Look at
title?
His face. Look at his face. Honestly, just look at his face when he talks. This
Is
guy
Christ
is
a name or a
loser.
title?
Loser. He wears a cowboy hat. I'm in a real barn. He's talking about chickens. You're a loser. You're a loser. Go look it up.
Is Christ a
Go look
name
it
or a
up.
title?
Go look it up.
I
just
did.
proved you
I have
wrong.
it. I have it right here. Is
And it
Christ a
says
name or a title?
Christos.
Sweet.
Hey, Christos, the same thing that happened to Jesus
Sweet.
Christ. This
Sweet.
is after Jesus Christ is after he got crucified. Who's Christos? Why did he go to Pontius Pilate?
Is
Why
that a
was he
name or a
crucified?
title?
Are you a retard? Are you a
Oh,
retard?
there
Is
it
that a testimony to someone who had an eyewitness
Had to remove him because of the R slur there. But again, this guy was on another level.
I got a question for you, brother.
Okay,
you,
okay, yeah. What's going on? What you got?
So you basically just don't believe anything if there's no evidence, correct?
I mean, it sounds pretty good. Really fast though, you
Like
did
that.
bring up because I did want to circle back to that because I didn't want to act as if I was like running away from that or something. But Second Peter, you're aware that like Peter didn't write that, right?
Well, yeah, Paul wrote like 23 books out of the entire New Testament, 100%. But you
said
don't think Paul existed,
23
so-
books? Is that what you said?
Ain't it 23 out of like the 26 or whatever it is? I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's a lot. It's majority of the New Testament was supposedly written by Paul.
I don't even know where to begin. But you brought up Second Peter earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Second Peter is not written by Peter. You know that, right?
Who wrote it?
It would be some other much later author that's just writing in Peter's name. Because do you believe Acts to be true?
I think Paul wrote it. That's the whole point.
You think
I
Paul
don't know
wrote
why you're
Second
like,
Peter?
I think that's why you're like going around it. But yeah,
You think Paul wrote Second Peter?
I think Paul wrote most of the New Testament. So yeah, but once
So
again, this
then
is
it
like,
wouldn't be eyewitness testimony to Jesus then.
that's okay. That's why I was getting to my other question that I asked you. So
No, you said
believe
we
you
had
have to have
eyewitness
evidence.
testimony to Jesus back when you interrupted there when I was
Okay.
talking to the
Well,
last
I
guy.
was
And you said
wrong.
it was in Second Peter, and you're saying Paul wrote that?
That's okay. I can say I'm wrong. I'm not too proud to do that. So
I mean,
let's say I'm wrong. Let's move forward now. All right. Now, so you believe everything has to have evidence, correct?
yeah,
I'm just
let's
asking.
go with it. Let's go with that.
Okay, so when people come out of the hospitals or car wrecks that they should die in, and no scientific doctor or anybody can explain how it happened, and there's no evidence on how they survived,
Yeah.
but they survived, you don't believe they survived, even though there's no evidence of how they could have.
There's no evidence. There's no evidence that he did survive. Is that what you said?
No, I'm saying every day things happen, like in hospitals or car wrecks or things like that. And
Is there evidence that these things happened?
No. There's no evidence on how they survived by science.
What do you mean
and physics,
evidence
they
on
would say,
how they survived? What do you mean?
Listen, I'm trying to explain to you. So they get in
Evidence
a
is
wreck,
something that we use for like did this happen kind of thing, not a how did it happen thing. Like no
okay,
explanation.
So for
is
you,
what
evidence
you
is only why, not how. Or like,
no,
or when.
why is an
You
explanation. Just what would be more of like a evidence kind of thing. Like there's evidence that somebody survived the cancer or something, but it's an
right, but
explanation
you're cool
as
with the
to how
evidence saying that he
it
survived,
would be different.
but you can't do. Right, but you can't explain how he did it, and you're okay with that. There doesn't have to be evidence for that. I'm just asking.
I mean, how did you determine it wasn't Asclepius, the Greek healer god, just doing you a solid, even though you referred to him as Jesus?
No, that's what I mean. So you do believe that we can't necessarily have evidence for certain things in this world.
Well, that's why I'm talking about history, man. I'm not talking about whether or not someone survived a car crash. We're talking about whether or not Jesus or Paul existed. What do you have for that?
Well, I think the whole thing is based on faith, which means you have to believe. That means there isn't no evidence. If there was evidence, everybody would believe it. And there'd be no
Do you make
point
it a habit to believe things without evidence?
I believe the air I breathe.
There's evidence of the air.
You can't see, touch, taste, none of that.
Sweet.
So.
Have you never breathed in and watched your lungs go up or watched your chest rise? That's evidence that
I
it's
watch
there.
my lungs, but you can't say that it's the air. You can't say what it is. You can't see,
There's
taste,
air
touch, or feel
in
it.
them. Why else are they expanding?
Just like evidence for how did we get here as people? Like how did human beings get here?
Sweet. I'm not making a claim about that though.
I'm just asking. You're making claims that you got to have evidence, and I'm saying there's so many other things in life.
I didn't
that we
say
don't
you
have
have to
evidence
have
for.
evidence. I'm just saying that if you
Oh, you're
believe
saying,
in something,
okay, you got to have evidence for Jesus and Paul.
Listen. I'm saying that if you take a stance on something, you should have evidence for it.
Oh, okay. I can feel that.
So
I
you
believe
take
the
a stance
evidence
that
is my
Jesus and
life.
Paul existed. Where is
Through
the
my life
evidence? Or
and
you
what
believe
he's
that they
done for
did? What evidence do you have that they did?
Oh, just what he's doing for me. That's the only evidence I can
Sweet.
give because I wasn't alive.
I don't
back
care
then.
if Jesus healed you or jerked you off yesterday. That doesn't have anything to do with 2,000 years ago, does it?
Oh, no, definitely
Okay,
not.
well,
It has
what I'm
to
talking
do with
about is
today.
existed, like past tense. If you think Jesus is alive today, just giving out handies everywhere, that's perfectly fine. But I'm saying existed like the Bible says, because the Bible, and this is true, does not mention JT in it. It just doesn't.
No, for sure. I didn't exist.
So
2,000
when it
years
says
ago.
when it says that Jesus existed, it tries to place him somewhere near the beginning of the first century. So I'm trying to figure out whether or not this is historically accurate. Do you have any evidence for that?
No, I think if you had evidence, everybody would believe, and it'd be pointless. So 100%.
It'd be pointless for everybody to believe?
It would be pointless if it was as just as proven as I am speaking to you right now, and I can show you my license, my address, and
So
where
was
I
it
stay
pointless
and
for the
things.
5,000? So did you, like, God doesn't want people to just know that it happened and have evidence for it?
No, I think he wants you to have faith and believe. I think
Okay,
that's
so
the
I
whole-
guess
that's the
God
point.
really hated those 5,000 people that got a meal because they all witnessed a miracle from Jesus in front of his face, in front of their face. Like, I guess fuck those guys, right?
No, those are the miracles just like today, the car wrecks and the
Oh, okay. So
cancers
like
and the,
they were able to see Jesus directly, right?
Yeah, they saw
Oh, okay.
Jesus. They got
So
they got
God
that
is okay
globally.
with some people seeing Jesus and having evidence that he can do these things and evidence he existed, but other people no?
No, yeah, I just told you I have evidence. I have my
So
evidence in
God
my
just
life. But you
decided that
said
those
doesn't count.
5,000 people were able to have evidence of Jesus, but we're not able to have evidence for Jesus because that'd be stupid.
No, because it's a entity that's considered a deity and not of human understanding.
Yeah, so it's almost as if
like,
it's just like a magic fictional story. Like that's how
it's
that
magic
works.
for
Yeah.
sure. It's definitely
Yeah.
magic. I wouldn't
But
say
yeah,
fictional.
but nevertheless, it's definitely fiction. It's something that didn't happen, which is why the people in the story, you're making an excuse for why the people in the story saw it, but we can't. That's like saying,
No, I'm
oh,
not
hey,
making an excuse.
Hermione, yeah, you are. Because the people, you said that we're not supposed to see it. God doesn't want us to see evidence for Jesus. He wants us to have faith. But nevertheless,
No, I didn't say he
the
didn't
story's
want us
explicit.
to. I
Okay,
didn't
then
say
why
he
don't
didn't
we
want
have
us to.
evidence
I gave
for
you
Jesus?
evidence. I tried to give you evidence of Jesus.
You
in my
haven't
own
given
life,
any
and you
evidence for
said there
Jesus
wasn't.
2,000 years ago.
And
Where's
you
the
said there
evidence that he
wasn't
existed?
I didn't live 2,000 years ago, so I can't.
Sweet.
Do
So where's the evidence he existed? That's why we rely on evidence. Otherwise, I just ask you, what did you see?
I just gave you my evidence for today as a deity.
I didn't
where
ask
he
you about
affected my
today.
life.
I didn't ask you about today.
Well, you wouldn't think that something that's considered like a deity or supernatural would carry over thousands and
How did
thousands.
you determine it was Jesus?
I asked.
You asked,
hey,
and
where's
it
the
said,
stuff?
"My name is Jesus."
Yeah, it said, "Hey, I'm Jesus. I'm the way. I'm the truth. This is it. This is the only way you gonna get to heaven, bro. Like this is it."
Is that your
heard it.
son?
What do you
By
mean?
the way, is that your son or daughter that you're holding?
It's
there?
my little daughter. Sorry if she's bothering you. She's
No,
3
no,
months
no, no,
old.
no.
I don't know.
It's not that. It's just I'm really sad that you procreated. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to somebody else here. Hopefully, his daughter's able to grow up in a place that reads books. Okay, Blackbeard 907 AK. What you got? You there? I don't know what's going on. Blackbeard,
Yo,
you
what's
there?
up, bro?
Oh, you there? Blackbeard? Blackbeard, you there? Oh, nah, he left. Okay. Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know if I can say that without getting flagged or something like that. But Bush, what you got?
Right here, what are you saying?
Say what?
What's up, bro?
Hey, not a lot, not a lot. What you got, man?
Okay, so I'm gonna preface by saying we're not gonna put your presupposition or any presupposition that you need contemporary evidence for something to exist, right? Or like
What?
someone. We're not gonna put the presupposition that you need contemporary evidence for someone, for like contemporary accounts for evidence of someone existing, right?
That would be some of the highest possible things that we could get for
It
you know,
is
confidence
it
on
is.
somebody. Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying that doesn't automatically mean that he doesn't exist.
Is that
right?
Was that a chicken in the background or was that a kid?
Yeah, I live in the Cayman Islands, so we have a lot of free chicken. We have a free range chickens and shit. Don't worry about it.
What is happening? How are you the second person within a 10 minute span that has a chicken in the background?
Because we don't live in the city, bros. It's okay, bro. There's other people out here. Anyways, okay. If someone was to talk about someone, let's say 70 years after they died, right?
Yep. In a mundane way,
70.
I'd accept that. Yep. What you got?
So say 70 years after someone died, there's multiple people talking about, hey, there was this guy, he was great. Of course, there's going to be exaggerations. Of course, there's going to be like, yeah, I saw him go up on the mountain and he fed all of us.
Yeah, as long as the story
Yeah.
doesn't like have a bunch of magic and not line up with history, then yeah, I'll accept it as probably pretty reliable if it's written 7 years after the fact, because that would be from a contemporary.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, what about the kings at the time that actually, the things that actually happened at the time that they were talking about? Is it?
I'm gonna keep it real with you, Chief. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I really don't.
Oh, okay.
What are you talking about?
Say like when they slaughtered the kids and whatnot.
Yeah,
during
that
the
wasn't
time of
talked
Jesus.
about. Like Herod the Great. Yeah, that's not a thing. Doesn't get mentioned ever. You knew that, right? I don't know what happened to this guy. Okay, he's back. You knew that that's never mentioned ever. You knew that, right?
No.
Like the massacre of the innocents there, like in Bethlehem in Matthew 2. Is that what you're talking about?
What about Herod? Herod existed, right?
Herod the Great existed. He did not do that story there in Matthew 2.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
That was your argument? What else? You gotta have more.
I don't know. 70 years after he died, there's people talking about him. There's a whole other
7
religion.
years? Is that what you said?
70 years after he died.
Yeah,
There's
who is talking about him 70 years later?
Isn't what is his name? Josephus?
Oh, there we go. Look at that. You're the 47th person to bring that up in the last 3 weeks. No, that's an interpolation into Josephus.
Oh, it's not how you spell that, but
yeah, I know. It's because most people who think that like Josephus talks about Jesus, most of those dipshits don't even know how to say his name, which is why I put Jophesies and then Tacticus.
That's funny. But yeah, I don't believe he did any miracles. I also believe that it's like he lined up a bunch of quote unquote prophecies, like the palm leaves and the donkey and all that shit. That was all played out. So even if he was a real person, he kind of like manipulated people into believing he was the Messiah, even if he did exist.
Yeah, cool. He wasn't a real person though, but so you don't have to worry about that part.
You don't think so?
Nope.
Can I hear your argument on that, or
yeah? Because the Jesus of the New Testament definitely didn't exist because there's contradictions and anachronisms in the text.
That isn't enough.
And that is enough. Anachronisms show that the story is not historically possible. So yeah, that is enough.
The story isn't possible, but the person. That doesn't show that the person doesn't.
Well, there's no
exist.
evidence of the person outside of the story, so I don't know what to tell you. You can just make up something. You can also say Jesus was a velociraptor. If you want to say that, there's no story that says it, but if you just want to pull shit out of your ass, go ahead.
Okay. All right, Mr. Condescending, later.
Sounds good.
See you later.
Say hello to your mom for me. All right. Let's see. Let me check out the super chats. $1.99 says Amadeus Seuss. What? Amadeus Seuss. I don't know. Well, Amadeus is mentioned, so that's Amadeus Almighty, everybody. Amadeus Almighty has been mentioned. Oh, yeah. Go ahead and check out Amadeus Almighty over there on TikTok. Goes through a lot of different cool stuff. Not just Jesus and Paul, and specifically not really Jesus and Paul very much, but also like God, evolution, science, a whole bunch of really cool things. He's also a musician, as well as an author of two books. Also, I heard. Now this is just a rumor, I guess. I heard that he's a pretty good juggler. That's what I heard. Something about chainsaws and stuff like that. That's what I heard. I don't know. And then we've got $9.99 from Jogman95. What's your take on Alex O'Connor? He insists Jesus is historical fact. Is he another Bar Ehrman, afraid of his reputation? No, I think that Alex O'Connor probably just kind of takes like just your most popular opinion, or like the not scientific consensus, but like the consensus from most scholars, just because like there's no harm necessarily if you're wanting to talk about something else. Well, there is a little bit of harm, but still. Like if your goal is to talk about something else, like the morality of religion or the theology or something like that, or some other claim of the Bible, saying that Jesus exists at least just kind of just gets you there or whatever. It allows for you to kind of say, okay, let's just kind of put that on the table for right now and just move on. You're finding some kind of middle ground that you can kind of talk to these Christians about. But the problem with doing that is it's not true, and we should probably just stop doing that. In all honesty, I mean, I'm not going to hold somebody against it. Like if Alex O'Connor does that, or if Dr. Blitz does that, if Justin does that, I'm not really gonna. I'm not gonna hold them. I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, they didn't do it. They're fucking assholes or something. No, I'm not gonna do that. But what I am gonna kind of think is, man, you're giving these people an inch. Don't do that. Don't give them an inch because they'll take a mile. That's how that works. They're going to use your claim that Jesus was a historical person as a spring or a trampoline to try to get to another stance. They're going to say, oh, okay, if Jesus existed, then you have all these people who are walking around saying that he was X, Y, and Z, that he was divine and stuff like that. People were making up these claims. So there must have at least been some kind of an idea of this, and then they're just going to build from there. They try to do that all the time. And it's like, there's no evidence that the guy even existed. Stop giving him that. But hey, look, if you're looking to have other conversations, I can see why you would want to do that. So it's not necessarily that he's afraid of his reputation, maybe, but I would say that it's probably just he's wanting to have other conversations about it. And I get it. Tamad says you wouldn't grant someone that Gandalf existed. Like, yeah, like if I wanted to talk to someone about whether or not Sauron was that bad of a guy, I wouldn't grant necessarily that, like as portrayed by the book, because I don't believe in Sauron or something like that. I wouldn't grant that someone else in the book existed. Like I wouldn't grant that Frodo was real. No. You can do a textual criticism of the book without saying that this is an actual real thing. You can say, hey, Jesus says this, and I explain it. I explain things in that way too. I'll talk about how Jesus called a Canaanite woman a dog because she was the wrong religion, or the wrong ethnicity. Like I talk about that, but that's an internal critique. That's not me saying that Jesus actually existed. So people who grant that, it's like, okay, you're doing too much. You didn't have to do that, but I get it. I get it. I get it. Frodo isn't real. Multiple people are saying that. It's ridiculous. All right. $5 from Dionysian Mask says, I'd rather go to hell with Jaren than wherever this guy is going. Yeah. And then $2 from Lauren 2028. No more Cena. Yeah, I haven't done it. I haven't done it in a while, but I need to. Emmett, what you got, Emmett?
Hey, Shalom. We spoke a while ago. I don't remember. But thanks for having me on. Maybe I mean I'm Jewish, so I don't have any Jewish closure yet. So obviously I think Jesus is at least a liar and a fraud.
Yes, I
but
guess.
So I just had a question and then maybe a small argument, just something I thought of I wanted to bring up with you. So do you think John the Baptist was a historical figure?
I am open to both sides of that story. I thought that he was real, but my co-author put me in my place in a debate on Ace. Ace is live here on TikTok. So, So, yeah, it was, it's tough. It's tough either way. I would say that, there's at least some kind of reference to him maybe, but I don't know. There's really only one thing that we have, which is Josephus.
Right. So I guess my question is, and then I'll go sort of my, I guess, argument, just something I thought of. What is the distinct? I'm sure you probably spoke about this many times, so forgive me because I don't really listen to your stream that much. I just don't have the time in terms of when I'm free. Like, so what would be the distinction between Josephus or Josephus reference from the Testimonium Flavianum, which is obviously debated, and the one that's less so, which is the one that has James, the brother of so-called Christ? What would be the distinction between that and then the reference he makes to John the Baptist? Like, what would make the former, I guess, more unreliable in your perspective?
Again, my co-author was explaining that like the John the Baptist thing is also unreliable, is basically what he was saying. So I mean,
so Josephus is just it is
Josephus
unreliable.
Is unfortunately somebody who the Christians get their hands all over the text, kind of like the Jerusalem Talmud. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that, like, the Christians, they had their names all over
Well, they
that
get
shit.
over it in terms of not being able to, analyze and study it properly, but they never necessarily. The only thing the Christians did was, um, in terms of manuscripts, they had things edited out that they believe were blasphemous or were antagonistic towards the church. But so far as I know, I don't think the church ever deliberately rewrote pages of the Jerusalem Talmud or the
Well,
Babylonian Talmud
what
for
my
that
point
either.
is that they get their hands on it. They
Okay.
have the opportunity to say, okay, let's do something with this.
Okay.
For Josephus, we have Eusebius in the early 4th century who literally says, "Let us now make use of Josephus the Jew."
Mm, okay.
And
And
then
then
he gives us that paragraph for the first time, the Testimony of Flavianum, and it's like, oh
Interesting.
my god.
No, no, I was just curious on that front. And then something I want to bring up. I don't know I don't know if it's something that's been, you've spoken about before. Are you familiar? I guess I'm guessing you are, but just for the sake of asking, are you familiar with the Mishnah?
To some extent.
So the Mishnah was officially ratified and compiled by Rabbi Judah Hanasi in the year 200, but it was based off oral traditions that go, hundreds of years. It was the first time the oral law was, officially written to paper. And in one of the sections, Sanhedrin, it talks about someone named Yeshu, which, most scholars and, the way I understand it at least, is which is a Jewish or rather an Aramaic. I wouldn't say a cool name, but in terms of figure, who was put on trial for 40 days and then was
What is he
executed. I want to say Yesh. I don't know if it's Yeshu the Nazarene or just
That's it.
Yeshu.
Yes, the Nazarene. And the fact, does the Mishnah mention Nazareth anywhere?
I don't think it does.
Does the
Correct me if I'm
Jerusalem
wrong.
Talmud or the Babylonian Talmud mention Nazareth?
They mention they do hold on. There is a story in the Babylonian Talmud where Onkelos, the author of the Targum Onkelos, he summons 3 spirits, and one of the spirits is Yeshu of Nazareth.
No, the town Nazareth is not mentioned.
No, it says Yeshu the Nazarene. Sorry, the Yeshu and the Nazarene.
I was like,
Yeshu
what
the
the heck?
Nazarene.
Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeshu the Nazarene.
Well, my point is that Nazareth is not mentioned in the Talmud. It's not mentioned in it's not mentioned in the Mishnah. It's not mentioned in Josephus, who was born in Galilee in 37. It's not mentioned on maps or lists. What I'm saying is that very clearly when they call Jesus this, they are connecting him to what the Gospels call him.
Sorry, correct me if I'm ignorant. Calling someone the Nazarene, doesn't that imply they're from Nazareth? So in turn, they're sort of inferring
So
Nazareth
what do they
exists?
call the Christians?
I don't think the word Christian is used
I know.
in the Talmud.
What do they call them?
Just I would just say the Goyim nations.
No, they call them the Nazarenes.
Yeah. Could be. I mean, I've learned the Talmud, but I don't consider myself to be an
when they
expert
talk
knowing
about the
every-
Christians, they don't talk a lot about the Christians, but when they do, they call them the Nazarenes.
Okay, so I guess.
So what my point is that it's very clearly not somebody from Nazareth, but they're getting that concept. They're calling them the Nazarenes because they follow Jesus the Nazarene, but it's not that Jesus is from Nazareth, so that's why he's a Nazarene. They're just using the text that is already available to them, the Gospels, that story, and they're saying, "What the fuck?" Like they're explaining what's going on from a Jewish standpoint, and they're trying to encourage people not to go join the Christians, which is why they say Jesus is boiling in liquid shit forever, because it's not like it's a religious treatise against the Christians who are culturally appropriating from them, as opposed to like saying, "Oh, hey, we know that this guy actually existed." It is a take that is basically saying, "Hey, here's the real story," but it's like here's the real story after the story has already been around.
Right.
But I'm not saying that the Christians got it right. It's still bullshit. It's just that the Jews were probably fucking sick and tired of people saying all this stuff about a supposed Jewish guy. And so they come up with a story. I don't know why that particular information would have lasted that long and be passed down through Jerusalem and stuff like that. Like, why would it even matter? They don't mention Pilate. It doesn't mention the cross. They're like vaguely familiar with the story of Jesus. They mention 5 disciples, and only one of them even comes close to one of the disciples' names, and that's Matthew. And it's only close. And technically speaking, in the Gospel of Matthew, that's the only gospel that he's called Matthew in. On the
Well,
other gospels, he's called Levi.
It's debated if that's even a reference to Jesus, because remember, Yeshu wasn't necessarily an uncommon name. The only one that
Well,
I
it's the
personally
Nazarene.
believe,
It's the fact that it adds the Nazarene to it.
well, the Nazarene part's only added in the story relating to Unkelos summoning him from the grave. I don't believe Yeshu the Nazarene is meant. I don't believe the
No,
Nazarene
in
part is
Sanhedrin
added.
43a, it's in there. In the
No,
Nazarene part.
that's the one with Unkelos. That's the one with Unkelos that summoned the spirits. I think the other mentions of I believe so. I believe 43a is the one where Unkelos raises the spirits, and one of them is Yeshu the Nazarene. No, which one's
no,
40?
43a is when it's talking about like boiling in liquid shit.
Yeah, that's the one. So that's the story where Unkelos raises the spirits, and he asks Yeshua of Nazareth, "What is your punishment for leading the nation of Israel astray?" And he says he's boiling in a pot of excrement. That's the story of Unkelos summoning the spirit of Yeshua.
Well,
the
either
Nazarene.
way, it's still still based
No,
off
I
of
understand. I
the
agree
Nazarene
with you,
concept.
but
Is what I'm
I
saying.
agree with you. But I guess just to sort of get by my final point, which is more so toward the Mishnah. So the Mishnah was ratified in the year 200. So it's about 300 years ratified before
Where
the
are you
earliest
getting the
Talmud, which is
idea that it's ratified in the 200s? Where are you
the
getting that?
Mishnah, because it was ratified by
Oh, the
Rabbi
Mishnah.
Judah Nasi.
Well,
yeah, the Mishnah 200 approximately by Rabbi Judah the Prince, Yehuda Hanasi.
Okay.
So the Mishnah was ratified about the year 200, and it mentioned. So my question is, why do you think the rabbis would mention the trial of a Yeshu for 40 days until he was executed? Why do you think they would mention it if they didn't believe he existed? I guess that's sort of just what I'm curious about from your perspective.
So really fast.
I'm sorry?
So how sure are you that the sections that talk about this Yeshu the Nazarene are even something that comes from 200? Like the
Well, it has
sections
to.
explicitly, because
Well,
I
it has
mean
to,
the
because
Talmud
because it was
itself, the
not
Talmud,
the
like
Mishnah, not the Talmud, the Mishnah.
well, which section are you referring to?
I think isn't I forget the you can Google it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I want to say I think it's one reference.
So Jesus is
just
not explicitly named in the Mishnah, but in later Talmud contains several passages that many historians.
maybe
It's
maybe
the Talmud. That's the problem. The Mishnah,
okay.
it shows up in like your 200 or so, is when it's like
Right.
codified. But the Talmud, that's like 3rd to 6th century when it's finished.
Yeah, that the earliest is like 4th to 5th century, Jerusalem Talmud. Yeah, I could have sworn. I'm sorry, I could have sworn that there was a reference in the Mishnah. I could have sworn. So I
mean,
apologize
it
if that's
is
incorrect.
in. So okay, there is a Talmudic passage, Sanhedrin 43a, and I want to take a look at that because I was looking it up like in the Mishnah, and I was like, it's not finding it. But in the Talmud, let me see here. So Sanhedrin 43a, Talmud. Okay.
Sorry for the confusion, by the way.
No problem. No problem. So he's a sorcerer in this section, but it's again it's in the Talmud.
Okay.
There's nothing in the Mishnah, but there is something in the Talmud where it says, where is this at here? Okay, you do have the Jesus the Nazarene. He has magic and he leads people astray. And maybe this is the section. There's a couple. You'd have to kind of dig out. Sanhedrin 43a does have something there, but it doesn't. It relates the trial and execution of a sorcerer named Jesus, or Yeshu in Hebrew, and his 5 disciples. Yeah.
But you think, regardless, this is just sort of an attempt by the rabbis.
Yeah, an explanation. So, especially if it shows up later, that's the thing, because Jesus is not in. Jesus isn't mentioned in the Mishnah; he's mentioned in the Talmud. But if it comes up later, there's a potential that it doesn't actually get written down until after Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire. I mean, it could show up later. So they're definitely talking about a religion that is doing some
Because
shit like some
Constantine forces Christianity in the 300s. Correct me if I'm wrong,
yes, early
Yeah.
300s. He makes all religions legal, including Christianity. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess just go ahead.
But what I'm saying is that the text itself refers to Jesus in a way that would be indicative of them kind of responding, if you will, to the
Mhm.
gospel story. Because the most telling part is that they call the Christians Nazarenes, which very clearly doesn't mean to them people from Nazareth. And then they also call Jesus the Nazarene, but they never mention Nazareth. So, and because we've established that by calling the Christians Nazarenes, that doesn't necessarily mean somebody from Nazareth.
Yeah, and I think you have a
then
point
it doesn't
also because
really make a lot of sense. That means that
Yeah.
they're pulling it from what the Christians
Right.
call them.
Right. And now that I think about it, your point makes sense, because now that I think about it, the Talmud wasn't ratified in the hopes of a non-Jewish audience. It was obviously written for a Jewish audience primarily. The rabbis didn't think when they were codifying the Mishnah and the Talmud that this was going to be read by a non-Jewish audience, or at least that wasn't the intention. So I don't see why. Right.
Yeah.
So
You're talking to Jewish people saying, "Hey, don't go join those motherfuckers."
Yeah.
like don't do that.
Yeah. And just one last question, if you don't mind. Again, because I'm not that familiar with the New Testament. I mean, I've read parts of it just for academic purposes, obviously, being Jewish. What's the argument against Paul being a historical figure?
So Paul is literally never mentioned by any non-Christian in antiquity. Like, unless they're explicitly talking about like a book that the Christians have, never mentioned by a non-Christian ever. And when it comes to Christians, they don't mention him until 144. Prior to that, he's non-existent.
Doesn't he identify himself in his letters, or like some of the letters?
I mean, even those letters are considered to be at least about half of them or so are considered by Christian scholars today to not be from Paul. So you don't have to be from Paul, or you don't have to be from Paul just because you say you are. Even Christian scholars acknowledge that. But I would go one step further and say that even the authentic letters that they say, whenever you actually divide it up, you see that there's multiple authors within those texts. And the earliest iterations of them, even admitted by early church fathers and stuff, the first time that they get published is by Marcion in 144. And those versions are much more stripped down and don't really include a lot of biographical information for Paul or anything like that.
So so when those texts that identify themselves as Paul, at least the ones that scholars think he might have wrote, do you think it's possible then there was some figure, some follower named Paul originally, and then that got expanded upon, like similar to Isaiah, where you have 3 different authors in the book of Isaiah? You have the original prophet Isaiah.
Yeah. In fact, in a similar way, our next book actually goes over a little bit of Paul in those that kind of way, where we have like different redactors and stuff that come in and say, okay, let's go ahead and add this. Then someone else comes in and adds this, and comes in and adds this. And you can see layers. You can actually see layers of Paul, and the theological purpose behind it and the certain reasons behind it. I'm sure you're probably familiar with the documentary Hypothesis there for the Old Testament.
Yes.
Yeah, it's similar to that kind of concept where you have like different people coming in and say, okay, this is our layer, and they say, okay, let's go ahead and add this, and then someone else comes in and adds it, and finally you have the canonical version where it's just, okay, it's done now. And the Pauline letters that we end up with are the Marcionite versions there in 144 that have just been added to over time.
Yeah. All right. I really appreciate the conversation. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for the good work, and I hope I catch more of your streams.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. That was Emmet.
Emmet is English. The Hebrew pronunciation would be MS, and that just means truth.
MS.
All
right.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. All right. Thank you so much.
There you go. That was MS, guys. All right. Really quick, let me check really fast on the super chats here before we hop off, and then I'm gonna. I got one guest that's coming up. Hopefully they're able to connect. Let's see. $4.99 from Elope Nope says, introducing where's the fucking marker? All right. Introducing Queef Faith LLC, a fun park where adults can bury your head in the sand for a better access to Q source. Hurry, limited spots. Reality sucks. Oh my god. I don't know what's going on in there. But that's at least one. I don't know what's going on in that comment. And then $1.99 from Elope. No, oh, their, not your head. Correction for previous chat. Okay, bury their head in the. I read it like that, I guess, in my head, but like that's so strange. All right, Tanya, how's it going? Tanya? You okay? And on that note, thank you to anybody and everybody who stuck around longer than 30 seconds. A 35-second rise up. Mom, pick me up. I'm scared. All right. Damn. Okay, so that was something. All right. Thank you very much, guys, for hanging out. I will see you guys later. Again, make sure to follow Amadeus Almighty. I will see you guys later. I'll be on tomorrow morning. So peace out, Girl Scout. Put me down for some Thin Mints. Jared says that was hot. Jesus Christ. Oh, man. Okay. That's funny. And over there on YouTube, thank you very much for hanging out, guys. Thank you for becoming members. I see a lot of members who have actually sent some super chats over. Thank you very, very much. And thank you for the super chats. I will see you guys later. Again, make sure to let me know if there's any content in specific that you want from Matthew and I. We're trying to get even more out there for you guys. If you're not a member, consider becoming a member there on YouTube. It removes any ads that could potentially pop up or anything. You get a nice little badge. You get to do some like emotes there or little emojis there, specific custom emojis there in the chat. And you get access, depending on your level, you get access to videos earlier than everyone else, some as early as a month earlier. And you get to see some of the member-only videos where Matthew and I go over like bad reviews of our book, Christ Before Jesus, or moments where we are able to answer questions that people have. So if you have any questions for us or something like that, you can reach out to us, or you know, you can even ask them there in the super chats throughout the day. But anyways, I will see you guys later. Thank you very much for hanging around, or coming by. You've been you. Oh, wait. Oh my gosh. $2 there from a Lope Note says, who we hating? We're hating a Lope Note. Hating a Lope Note. There it is. Ew. Yeah. We're hating a Lope Note. Yeah. Boo. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for hanging out. Again, you've been you, and you have been Tube. Peace out. See you guys.